In Konoha, I start by summoning the traveling frog. Greetings, fellow multiversal adventurers. It's an honor to have you back in this saga that has us all hooked. Official channel statement: this story is 100% epic fiction, so please don't attempt real magic. The results aren't guaranteed and insurance won't cover it. The rights to this masterpiece belong entirely to its brilliant original author. We are just a barge sharing it with you. Do you want to keep being part of this amazing community? Join our ninja army of subscribers on YouTube and give this content a like. And for true fans, our Patreon has exclusive ninjutsu waiting for you. Chapter 1: Hinata Chiba. In the 51st year of Konoha, within the Hyuga clan, a young man lazily lounged on the rooftop, a toothpick dangling from his lips as he gazed lazily at the sky. His demeanor was casual, but a glint shone from his white eyes. His name was Hyuga Chiba. 12 years, Hyuga Chiba muttered to himself. Indeed, he was a time traveler, and 12 years had passed since arriving in this world. However, unlike the protagonists in novels, Hyuga Chiba hadn't immediately received a system upon his arrival. Furthermore, upon arriving within the Hyuga clan, he discovered he couldn't even concentrate chakra, unable to even activate the simplest Byakugan. This earned him the nickname Hyuga Waste. Konoha's two great clans, the Uchiha and the Hyuga, were both renowned in the ninja world for their eye techniques. The Byakugan's opening was far simpler than the Uchiha's, and since even the Hyuga clan couldn't activate it, the term waste was well deserved. It was precisely because of this that the people of Konoha often treated Chiba with derision, scorn, and contempt. Kainai didn't take any of this too seriously, however. He knew he wasn't incapable of concentrating chakra. Ding! At that moment, a notification chimed. A small frog, visible only to Kainai, appeared from the void. Congratulations, host. Your little frog has returned from his journey. See what he brought you. A smile instantly crossed Kainai's face. As a time traveler, even without a system, he could carve a niche with his knowledge of the Naruto world. However, just as he began his training, he discovered his chakra was mysteriously disappearing. Fortunately, in his previous life, Kainai had read countless online novels and immediately understood that chakra wouldn't vanish out of thin air. So, over the years, he'd never stopped training. And all his chakra was used to activate the system. Finally, last month, the traveling frog system was successfully awakened. Every once in a while, the little frog would travel across the universe and bring back something for Kainai. The destination and time of each trip varied, and the prizes were also random. But, let's wait and see. Ding! Congratulations to the host, you've obtained a thunder fruit. After delivering the gift, the little frog croaked and vanished into the void again. Ding! Your little frog has set out on his journey again. Please wait for his next return. The thunder fruit? Chiba's mind flickered, and a fruit appeared in his hand, which he swallowed in one gulp. Boom! Instantly, a resounding explosion echoed, and the sky and the earth shifted. Konoha, which had been a clear, sunny sky just moments before, was now shrouded in dark clouds. Bolts of lightning roared within the clouds, then converged over Konoha. What's going on? Hinata Hayashi, who was inside, saw this and rushed out. Many Jonin had also gathered in Konoha, and the powerful lightning filled them with fear. Establish a barrier. The third Hokage appeared atop the Hokage building and shouted to the crowd. In an instant, everyone rapidly formed hand seals, and a massive barrier formed over Konoha. The third Hokage gazed up at the sky with a solemn expression, lost in thought. Was this the will of heaven to destroy Konoha? With the departure of the Sannin and the outbreak of the Nine Tails Rebellion, the Minato couple and a host of Konoha's elite perished one after another. Although the third Hokage had returned, he was no longer in his prime, but an old man in his twilight years. Konoha had fallen into a slump, a world completely different from what it once was. If this violent thunder and lightning were allowed to wreak havoc again, it would be a devastating blow to Konoha. He had to prevent this from happening. However, no one noticed that within the Hyuga clan, there was an inconspicuous young man. Lightning flickered faintly in his white eyes, and he stared intently at the sky. As he looked, the lightning in the sky gradually calmed, as if he had seen the Emperor of Thunder, and was in submission. Disperse, Chiba muttered to himself. As his voice fell, the violent lightning that had gathered in the sky, causing Konoha to fear a formidable enemy, vanished in a flash. The skies over Konoha were once again clear, as if nothing had happened. Everyone in Konoha gazed at the calm sky, and everything that had just happened seemed like a dream. Brother Chiba, just then, A tender voice rang out. Chiba looked in the direction of the sound and saw a little girl stumbling towards him, then throwing herself into his arms. It was Hinata. Hinata had been terrified during the thunderstorm. Now that the lightning had dissipated, she had the courage to leave the room. The first person Hinata looked for after she left wasn't her father, Hyuga Hayashi, but brother Chiba, who was now holding her in his arms. Hinata and Chiba had been close since childhood. Even when few in Konoha liked Chiba, Hinata had always clung to him. All this happened because, when Hinata was little, she was bullied by a group of hooligans, and Chiba had stepped in to save her. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Feeling Hinata's shoulders sway slightly, Chiba smiled and pulled her into his arms. Brother Chiba is here, don't be afraid, Hinata sobbed softly, her arms tightly wrapped around Chiba's neck. That thunder just now was so loud, it scared Hinata to death. Brother Chiba, don't leave me, Hinata said, lying on Chiba's body. Chiba smiled, and he was very fond of this little girl. After all, she was one of the few girls in the ninja world who was pure to the core. And what Hinata would look like when she grew up. Of course, that's another story. That may not be possible. Your brother Chiba will leave you soon, because he's dying, but just then, a voice suddenly rang out. Chiba looked in the direction of the voice and saw Ninja holding a kunai, grinning at the two of them, as if looking at two lambs to be slaughtered. Are you from Kumogakure? Chiba saw the man's forehead protector and recognized him immediately. He immediately thought of the story in the original story where a Kumogakure ninja came to abduct Hinata, but was discovered and killed by Hinata Hayashi. So what? You are really unlucky. I don't know why there was such a huge thunder and lightning in the sky, which alarmed all the elite of Konoha. I was thinking about how to sneak into the Hyuga clan, and now I finally have a chance. Now, there are only two of you little brats in the Hyuga clan, Miss Hyuga family, will you come with me immediately? Or will you come with me after I kill this waste? After speaking, the Kumogakure ninja pointed at Chiba with a ferocious face. Chapter 2 I want to sleep with brother Chiba. Hinata quickly buried her head in Chiba's arms, terrified. The Kumogakure ninja before him had the look of a jackal, watching two lambs to the slaughter. Chiba set Hinata down and protected her behind him. He wasn't panicking, but rather excited. 12 years. Although he paid no mind to the outside world's disdain, all those years inevitably simmered within him. And today, he had finally awakened his system and consumed the thunder fruit, so he just wanted to test its power on someone. Kid, do you still want to protect this little girl? I've already learned all about the Hyuga clan. You're a loser. Everyone in Konoha knows you can't focus chakra. Do you think you can stop me? You know nothing about the power of a ninja. The Kumogakure ninja shook his head and approached the two. He knew he couldn't delay, or else, by the time the Hyuga clan returned, even he wouldn't be able to escape. As for Chiba before him, what could a man without chakra focus hold against him? But at that moment, he suddenly felt a flash before his eyes. A flash of lightning appeared for no apparent reason. When his vision cleared again, he realized Chiba had suddenly appeared before him, and a hand had pierced his chest. Lightning flashed everywhere. Thunder. Lightning release. Instant body. The Kumogakure ninja's eyes widened in disbelief. Wasn't it impossible to concentrate chakra? How could Chiba perform the instant body technique? And it was a lightning release instant body technique. Although he wasn't high-ranking in Kumogakure, he had seen the fourth Raikage perform it before. How could Chiba's speed just now seem to rival that of the fourth Raikage? 1,000 questions filled his mind, but he didn't have time to ponder them. Chiba's hand had already pierced his heart. The next moment, the Kumogakure ninja collapsed helplessly to the ground, lifeless. Is this the power of the thunder fruit? Chiba withdrew his hand, paying no attention to the corpse before him, silently pondering. He was still very satisfied with the previous attack. Brother Chiba, Hinata stood there, staring blankly at the scene. Compared to Chiba's calmness, her heart was in turmoil. What was going on? Did brother Chiba know ninjutsu? But just now, why was he so strong? Did brother Chiba become stronger just to save me? Thinking of this, Hinata couldn't help but blush. Hinata, at this moment, a voice came from the sky, and then a figure appeared in the blink of an eye. It was none other than Hyuga Hayashi. When Hyuga Hayashi arrived, he immediately saw the corpse on the ground and frowned slightly. Then, he saw Chiba standing beside him. But with just a glance, he retracted his gaze. Hyuga Chiba, the useless person of the Hyuga clan. In Hyuga Hayashi's eyes, He was simply a disgrace to the Hyuga clan. Therefore, over the years, he had been extremely indifferent to Chiba. "What's going on?" Hinata Hayashi asked in a condescending tone. At the same time, he opened his Byakugan and observed his surroundings vigilantly. Hinata Hayashi saw that Hinata was still young and Chiba was a useless person who could be ignored, so there must be other strong people around. "Father. It was Brother Chiba who killed the bad guy." "Brother Chiba is so great," Hinata shouted excitedly. She could also see that Hinata Hayashi disliked Chiba, so she hurried to explain for Chiba. "Oh?" Hearing this, Hinata Hayashi looked at Chiba in surprise. With his Byakugan open, Hinata Hayashi observed Chiba's body. At this moment, he was a little shocked. Because there was actually chakra in Chiba's body. In the past, the reason why Chiba's chakra was lost was to activate the system. A month ago, after the system was activated, Chiba's chakra stopped losing and was naturally stored in his body. But over the years, everyone has become accustomed to his useless identity, so no one has noticed it. This man should be a chunin from Kumogakure, but he is not conspicuous. It is normal for you to kill him in a sneak attack, but, Hinata Hayashi frowned slightly. He had already thought of the consequences of this matter. Chiba smiled casually. Being familiar with the plot of Naruto, he naturally knew what this matter meant. In today's Konoha, the three ninjas have left. The Minato couple were both killed after the Nine Tails Rebellion. Konoha also lost a group of elite ninjas, and the 12 little strongmen have not yet risen. Today's Konoha can be said to be short of talent, and its strength has fallen to the bottom. Coupled with Sarutobi Hiruzen's weak character, can Konoha withstand the pressure from Kumogakure? The answer is obviously no, otherwise there would not be the situation in the original book where Hisashi Hinata took the blame for his brother and died. But now, the person who got into trouble has become him, and Hisashi Hinata will not take the blame for him. Chiba, from today on, don't leave the village at will, stay in the village and practice well, Hisashi Hinata said. It's called practice, but it's actually house arrest. After that, Hisashi Hinata left here. He was going to report to Sarutobi Hiruzen immediately. Brother Chiba is awesome. Hinata happily walked to Chiba after seeing Hisashi Hinata leave. When did Brother Chiba become so powerful? Brother Chiba, don't worry, Hinata will plead with her father and let him teach Brother Chiba the soft fist in person. Little Hinata waved her fists twice, still immersed in the joy of Chiba's sudden strength, so that she, who is usually introverted, suddenly had so many words at this moment. But when she heard Hinata's words, Chiba just smiled casually. Hinata was still young and didn't see the problem, but Chiba knew very well that he was in trouble. At night, Chiba was lying alone in bed. Byakugan, Chiba shouted, and his chakra instantly condensed on his eyes. This was the first time he opened his Byakugan. For a moment, the surrounding scene changed drastically. The 360-degree field of vision without blind spots, and the field of vision within a kilometer radius were all exposed to his vision. Is this the Byakugan? When Chiba was studying the power of the Byakugan, he suddenly saw a sneaky figure at the door, approaching his room. Chiba's mouth curled up a little, and then he flashed and came out of the house. What are you doing? Hinata was startled when she heard the sound behind her. After seeing that it was Chiba, Hinata lowered her head, her hands not knowing where to put them. Chiba brother, I'm scared. Hinata's eyes were full of tears, and her face turned red the moment she finished speaking. The next second, Hinata seemed to have mustered up the courage to speak. I want to sleep with Chiba brother. Chapter 3, Abandoned. At this moment, in the Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hiruzen puffed on his pipe, his eyes filled with fatigue. As Hokage, he prioritized Konoha above all else. The events that Hayashi Hyuga had reported to him earlier today still weighed heavily on his mind. Under normal circumstances, a Kumogakure ninja who infiltrated Konoha and attempted to abduct the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan would have been killed. But Konoha was in turmoil these days. After Minato's death, Kumogakure launched a war against Konoha. While Kumogakure didn't gain any advantage in this war, Konoha was still suffering greatly from it. This ninja had been sent to Konoha to sign a peace treaty. Now that he was dead in Konoha, could the war end peacefully? Hiruzen, it's time to make a decision, an impatient voice rang out from the office. Danzo pounded the table, expressing his dissatisfaction. Compared to the third Hokage, he had inherited the iron-blooded tactics of Senju Tobirama, willing to do anything for the village. Seeing Danzo's attitude, the third Hokage frowned slightly. But he didn't say anything, clearly accustomed to his old friend's attitude. What Konoha needs most right now is time. We absolutely cannot let another war break out at this critical juncture. Otherwise, if other powers take advantage of the situation, Konoha will be unable to resist. Hyuga Chiba is nothing but a worthless piece of shit. Even if he could become a ninja now, what good would it do? Sacrificing him alone can protect Konoha, and that's the most worthwhile. Clearly, Chiba had been treated as a pawn by Danzo. The third Hokage took another deep drag on his cigarette and fell silent. While he agreed with Danzo's words, he wasn't willing to personally hand Konoha's people over to the enemy. After a long pause, he finally spoke slowly. News will arrive from Kumogakure soon. Let's wait for their response. HMPH. I hope you won't be soft-hearted then. As Hokage, you should understand that the interests of the village are above all else. For the village, sometimes even you and I are willing to sacrifice ourselves. With that, Danzo left the office. After leaving, Danzo paused, glancing at the third Hokage in his office. More precisely, he took in the Hokage's robe. That was what he'd always dreamed of. This was a golden opportunity for Danzo. If he chose Chiba, the third Hokage would surely bring revenge on Kumogakure. If he abandoned Chiba, his actions would chill the hearts of many Konoha ninjas. After all, while Chiba was a worthless figure, he was still a member of Konoha. So, no matter what the third Hokage chose, it would be a blow to his prestige. And Danzo would seize the opportunity to ascend to power. Late at night, Chiba couldn't fall asleep. Beside him, a petite figure slept, her arms unconsciously wrapped around Chiba's arm, a sweet smile on her sleepy face. It was Hinata. Hinata had always been introverted, but Hyuga Hayashi had been so strict with her that she had developed an instinctive fear of her father. Hinata was just a little girl at the time, and being alone at night was unavoidable. Whenever she felt scared, the first person she thought of was Chiba. Over time, Hinata would sneak out of her room and sleep with Chiba in her room. This became a habit, and now, whenever Chiba wasn't by her side, she felt terrified. Chiba gazed at Hinata, a doting smile on his face. After 12 years, Chiba had become part of this world. If there was anyone he wanted to protect, it was Hinata. Chiba, looking at Hinata's adorable sleeping form as if she were his own sister, couldn't help but place a gentle kiss on her forehead. But at that moment, Chiba suddenly sensed a cold, murderous intent coming from outside the door. Something was happening. Chiba instantly activated his Byakugan, and within his sight, the intruder had nowhere to hide. The intruder seemed intent on catching Chiba's attention, and made no attempt to evade. Carefully pulling his arm free from Hinata's embrace, Chiba slowly stood up, fearing to wake her. Outside, a dark figure, wearing an Anbu mask, awaited Chiba's arrival. Soon, another figure sprinted towards them. The Anbu retreated, and Chiba gave chase. In a flash, the two of them were deep within the Konoha forest. The Anbu was slightly surprised to see Chiba still following him, the distance between them remaining the same. Was this really the worthless figure everyone in Konoha despised? If so, how could he possibly keep up with him? Chiba, he was hiding something. This Anbu was confident in his abilities, considering him a genius throughout Konoha. Are you an Anbu? Or a root? Chiba asked. From the mask, he could already guess their identity. Whoever it was, they had come at the behest of Konoha's higher-ups. Without a word, the Anbu drew their shurikens and launched them at Chiba. Whoosh, 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 6 shurikens in a row. Chiba activated his Byakugan, revealing the shuriken's trajectory. However, he was surprised to discover that the 6 shurikens had completely blocked his escape route. Halfway through their flight, the 6 shurikens suddenly became 12. Shurikens cloned. What a powerful shuriken technique, Chiba secretly praised. Although all his chakra had been used to activate the system for years, leaving him neither a ninja nor a mission, he had complete confidence in his own vision. The man before him was formidable. But now, possessing the thunder fruit, Chiba's power was far greater than ever. How could he care less about a mere shuriken? Chiba's body transformed into a flash of lightning, charging directly towards the Anbu. Chiba simply ignored the 12 kunai, their impact blocked by the lightning on their surface. It's indeed the lightning release body flickering technique. Just as the intelligence predicted, the Anbu pondered as they retreated. At the same time, he suddenly had a guess that no one would connect. Could the thunder and lightning today be related to Chiba? Byakugan, Chiba sprinted while casting his Byakugan. He paid attention to the chakra flow of the Anbu in front of him. But he was surprised to find that his chakra was converging towards his eyes. Sharingan. Chapter 4. The meaning of the village's protection. In the darkness, beneath the mask, a pair of blood-red eyes shone brightly. The shape of the three Magatama made Chiba recognize them instantly. Anbu, Sharingan, near-perfect shuriken jutsu. Chiba had already guessed the identity of the newcomer, Uchiha Itachi. One of the two great geniuses of the Uchiha clan, a leading figure in Konoha and even the entire ninja world. Of course, Itachi wasn't yet at his peak. However, looking at the entire history of Naruto, there were only a handful of people who could single-handedly shock the ninja world in peacetime. However, that day's earth-shattering event hadn't happened yet. Having guessed Itachi's identity, Chiba showed no sign of retreating. Instead, his fighting spirit intensified. He also wanted to test the level of his power within the ninja world after possessing the Thunder Fruit. Itachi was the perfect touchstone. Chiba clenched his right fist and launched a punch, sending a bolt of lightning as thick as an arm hurtling towards Itachi. Itachi's gaze narrowed, and he retreated rapidly forming hand seals with both hands. Fire style, Great Fireball Jutsu. A massive fireball erupted, drowning the lightning, but it was also shattered by the lightning, dissolving into a puff of smoke. Have you already mastered lightning style to this level? It's a bit like Kakashi's technique. Itachi now paid even more attention to Chiba. Chiba was only 12 years old, yet he had already mastered lightning style to this level, clearly a genius on par with Kakashi. A shame. Even with your Byakugan, you can't understand the power of these eyes. Itachi stared at Chiba. Chiba stared into Itachi's eyes, and suddenly, he sensed something was amiss. A Jinjutsu. Shisu wasn't dead yet, and Itachi had clearly not yet activated his main Gekyo. But even a Jinjutsu cast by a common Sharingan was elite level in Itachi's hands. An ordinary Jonin couldn't break it. Chiba's body froze in place. Itachi slowly approached Chiba. "It's over," Itachi said, and in a flash, he was in front of Chiba. At that moment, Itachi's gaze suddenly changed, and he retreated. At the moment he retreated, Chiba, who should have been under the illusion, suddenly moved. A flash of lightning passed by, and the two figures exchanged positions. A crack appeared on the mask on Itachi's face, and then it shattered, and Itachi's face emerged in the darkness. At this moment, Itachi's heart was filled with shock. In fact, not only Itachi, but even Chiba was a little shocked. Just now, he thought that he had been under an illusion without noticing, but later he found that the illusion could only disrupt the chakra in Chiba's body, thus making him enter the illusion. But in addition to chakra, Chiba also has the power of the Thunder Fruit. This power is not controlled by Itachi's eye technique, so in an instant, Chiba used the power of the Thunder Fruit to electrocute himself, and restored the originally disordered chakra to normal again. It seems that under the effect of the Thunder Fruit, illusions are ineffective against Chiba. After making this discovery, Chiba was even more secretly delighted. "You actually broke my illusion." Itachi was stunned. He didn't know about the Thunder Fruit and only thought Chiba was a lightning release type ninja. This was the first time Itachi doubted his own illusions. "Itachi, are you here to kill me?" Chiba turned and approached Itachi. After discovering he could ignore illusions, he knew Itachi was no match for him. Of course, after opening the main Gekyo Sharingan, with Amaterasu and Susanoo, that might not be a problem for Itachi. Itachi shook his head. He had only been ordered to test Chiba's strength. Meanwhile, the third Hokage had promised to destroy Chiba's eyes if he had the chance. Because he had once been a worthless person, Chiba hadn't been caged, even as a member of a branch family. In the eyes of the Hyuga clan, caged Chiba was a waste. If he couldn't open his Byakugan and couldn't concentrate his chakra, what was the point of using caged Chiba? Therefore, if Chiba was handed over to the Hidden Cloud Village, his Byakugan would inevitably be lost, something the third Hokage would never allow. "Did the third Hokage ask you to come?" Itachi still didn't answer. He was an Anbu, so naturally he wouldn't reveal any information. "Could it be that the Uchiha asked you to come?" Chiba's lips curled up with a playful arc at this moment. Itachi's heart was shaken. Uchiha? He carries the name of Uchiha, but he doesn't know how long it has been since he last worked for Uchiha. The original intention of joining the Anbu is to maintain a balance between the Uchiha clan and the village. But now, he has become a double agent between the village and the clan. Even his heart has gradually leaned towards the village under Danzo's brainwashing. Ever since he put on the mask, no one has regarded him as a member of the Uchiha clan, but as a member of the Anbu. No, this time, Itachi finally spoke. He couldn't let the Uchiha take the blame. Hearing Itachi's words, Chiba nodded with satisfaction. Is it because I killed that Kumogakure ninja that the third Hokage wants to send me to Kumogakure in exchange for peace? Since you already know, why ask? Itachi asked coldly. As an Anbu, he had long been accustomed to the idea of putting the village first. Although he understood the cruelty of these sacrifices, he had become accustomed to them. So, do you think I should go? If it were me, I would go. Konoha can't withstand war anymore, Itachi said. He would even destroy his own family for the sake of peace, let alone sacrifice his own life. However, he did not offer any advice to Chiba, because he understood that human nature is selfish. Hearing Itachi's words, Chiba sneered. Itachi, what do you think the meaning of the village is? The meaning of the village. Itachi had pondered this question once before, a vague feeling that he seemed to feel but could not put into words. So for a moment, Itachi did not know how to respond. The meaning of the village is protection. We protect the village, and the village also protects us. Konoha is our common village. We protect it and don't let outside enemies invade. At the same time, we are all Konoha's people. Only when Konoha protects us can Konoha's ninjas be protected from outsiders. Protection is the meaning of the village, not sacrifice. Please tell the third Hokage that I won't go. If Konoha abandons me, I will definitely abandon Konoha. If Konoha protects me, I will also wait for it with my life and death. Protect. These two words trembled in Itachi's heart. If so, should the Uchiha clan also protect Konoha? And should Konoha also protect the Uchiha? When Itachi came to his senses, Chiba's figure had disappeared. And he continued to think about Chiba's words. Chapter 5 Past Feelings. By this time, the sky was already turning pale. Chiba had returned to the village alone. His recent battle with Itachi had drained him of his energy. However, Chiba discovered that due to the thunder fruit, he hadn't used much chakra, so his stamina in a fight was uncertain. Feeling a little hungry, Chiba went to Ichiriko Ramen alone. Honestly, Ichiriko Ramen was truly delicious. No wonder Naruto loved it so much. Uncle, give me some ramen, Chiba called out as he entered. Seeing Chiba, a smile crossed his face. After all, Chiba was a regular customer. Just then, Chiba spotted a familiar figure. Kurenai. Hearing Chiba's voice, Kurenai turned around, their gaze meeting. As their eyes met, Kurenai lowered her head, a slight blush on her face. They had known each other since childhood. It turned out that Chiba was only 3 years old when she graduated from the Ninja Academy. At that time, Kurenai was only 6 years old and had just received her first mission. But because she failed to complete it, she returned home and received a harsh reprimand from her father. As a ninja, she couldn't be vulnerable, nor could she easily show this to others. But Kurenai was not only a ninja, she was also a girl. So, with no one to confide in, she could only cry silently. It was then that Chiba appeared. Though younger than her, he feigned an air of sobriety and even gave her a pendant. Whenever Kurenai thought of that scene, a smile would inevitably fill her face. And now, Kurenai still wore the pendant around her neck, though her clothes hid it from view. But, thinking back to the news she had heard yesterday, a trace of sadness crossed her face. Chiba had actually killed the Kumogakure envoy who had come to sign the contract. Even if he had intended to abduct Hinata, the consequences were too much for Chiba to bear. The noodles are cold. Just as Kurenai was pondering all this, a voice suddenly rang out from her ear, startling her. It was Chiba, who had somehow reached her side and whispered in her ear. A simple prank, but it had inadvertently brought them closer. Kurenai's face instantly turned even redder. Fortunately, Chiba didn't move any closer, instead finding a seat next to her. Chiba, I heard you've become a ninja, Kurenai finally couldn't help but ask. As she spoke, she felt a flicker of joy for Chiba. But it was quickly replaced by an endless sadness. The ninja world, after all, is the domain of the ninja. Chiba had been labeled a worthless person, unable to train. While his life wasn't in danger in Konoha, he was still looked down upon and struggled to survive. Becoming a ninja, even a Jonin, would have made life much easier. But who could have imagined that Chiba's first move would lead to such a catastrophic outcome? I guess so, Chiba smiled and nodded, unfazed by the Kumogakure ninja situation. Just as he told Itachi, Konoha protected him, and he would fight for them with his life and death. If Konoha abandoned him, he would abandon Konoha in return. Well, Chiba, Tomorrow's village guard will be my father's student. If you need anything, you can." After a long pause, Hong gritted her teeth, as if she'd made a profound decision. In her opinion, this was the best way for Chiba right now, even if it meant severe punishment. Chiba was stunned by Hong's words. This surprised him, but then he was also touched. Since entering this world, branded as a waste, he'd received countless cold stares. Few people truly cared about him. Hinata counted for one. Hong counted for another. Just as Chiba was about to refuse, a figure appeared, disrupting the harmonious atmosphere. "Hong, finally, I see you." A bouquet of roses was handed to Hong, and behind them lay a bearded face. He was about the same age as Kurenai, yet he looked so anxious, like an older man. At that moment, Asuma, a cigarette still dangling from his lips, wore a smile he thought was handsome, and stared at Kurenai with an infatuated expression. Upon seeing Asuma, Kurenai couldn't help but frown. Asuma had been pursuing her for some time. In the Naruto world, both men and women matured earlier. However, in this world, with the appearance of Chiba, Kurenai wasn't impressed by Asuma. Instead, she felt a bit annoyed. Not only did he enjoy smoking, he also frequently boasted about being the Hokage's son, allowing him to act with impunity in Konoha. Even so, Kurenai didn't dare confront him directly, fearing that Asuma was the third Hokage's son. To avoid Asuma, Kurenai had woken up so early for breakfast. Otherwise, with Asuma's constant attention, she wouldn't have a peaceful day. "Kuro, accept me, my love for you is like these roses, unable to resist, it's blooming," Asuma said emotionally. Kurenai's face was etched with countless dark lines, her expression gloomy to the extreme. Such corny love talk. And, in front of Chiba. Fortunately, it was still early, so not many people would see. Kurenai lowered her head for a moment, wanting to find a crack in the ground she could crawl into. Ho-ha, but Kurenai didn't react, but Chiba couldn't help herself. He had initially felt that Asuma was a bit of a nuisance, interrupting his and Kurenai's private time, but hearing Asuma's corny love talk, he couldn't help but burst out laughing. Asuma, the son of the Hokage, had ever been treated like this in Konoha. His expression darkened immediately. Seeing Chiba beside him, his eyes flashed with disdain. "Kid, what are you laughing at?" Asuma said disdainfully. Even if he could crush Chiba, it wouldn't matter. Asuma knew about Chiba's situation, but in his opinion, even if a useless person suddenly became a ninja, what was the big deal? He's the son of the Hokage and an elite of Konoha. Isn't it more than enough for him to deal with this loser? Nothing. It's just that the way you talk is so funny. Seeing Asuma's increasingly gloomy look, Chiba not only did not restrain himself at all, but laughed even more happily. Finally, Asuma couldn't bear it anymore. "If you laugh again, I will knock all your teeth out." Hearing this, Chiba also stopped smiling. Really? Chapter 6, Yuhi Kurenai's First Kiss. Anger crossed Chiba's face. The third had sent Itachi to deal with him, so he couldn't attack him for the time being. But Asuma was the third son, and it was only natural that the son should repay his father's debts. "Asuma, thank you for your kindness, but I don't like you. Please leave." Just as Asuma was about to explode, Kurenai spoke. Her tone was icy, instantly extinguishing Asuma's enthusiasm. Why? Asuma looked at Kurenai in disbelief. He was so confident in his qualifications that he couldn't imagine why Kurenai would reject him. Asuma was now a jonin, and because of his father, even though his talent wasn't top of the class in Konoha, he harbored the idea of vying for the position of fifth Hokage. Of course, this was a thought Asuma had in mind, and no one else shared it. "Because I already have someone I like," Kurenai said. As she spoke, she glanced at Chiba from the corner of her eye. A fleeting glance. At this moment, Kurenai's heart was pounding, and she was extremely nervous. HMPH. "Kurenai, there's no need to test my sincerity with such excuses. Don't worry, I truly love you and I'll never give up," Asuma said with a smile. Kurenai had someone she liked? That was sheer absurdity. No one in Konoha knew Kurenai better than him. Before pursuing her, he had gathered a lot of intelligence and knew she rarely interacted with other male ninjas. So, Asuma thought this was just an excuse to test his sincerity. "Asuma, I'm serious. I don't like you. I hope you won't come to me again." Kurenai's tone was icy. Asuma, gazing at Kurenai's resolute gaze, began to believe her. "Impossible. Unless you tell me who it is," Asuma shouted. Kurenai bit her lip, a shy expression on her face. Chiba, standing beside her, was also curious. He had never heard of Kurenai having a crush, and now he wanted to know who it was. After a long moment, Kurenai, as if making a firm decision, turned to Chiba and slowly approached him. The scorching heat left Chiba a bit dazed. He felt only a fleeting warmth on his face, and then Hong blushed, a look of shyness. With this gesture, it was obvious who she loved. Chiba was completely bewildered, his head buzzing. Asuma, on the other hand, looked at Chiba with hatred, his eyes practically blazing with fire. "You useless piece of shit. Damn you." Hong's face flushed crimson, her mind a mess. She didn't know why she had made this decision. Was it just to get away from Asuma? But that was her first kiss. Hong glanced at the same Chiba from the corner of her eye. Damn it. This guy, why didn't he react at all? Did he not like her? Thinking of this, Hong almost wanted to strangle Chiba to death. Fortunately, Chiba was a time traveler, and he had seen a lot in his past life, so he wasn't frightened by such a small scene. Chiba thought about it and decided he couldn't afford to lose. So he grabbed Kurenai and, ignoring Asuma's gaze, kissed her on the cheek. This made Kurenai's face turn even redder. You're looking for death? Asuma couldn't bear it any longer. His chakra erupted, and he flung the rose aside. 2 flying swallows appeared in his hands. Chakra then condensed within the flying swallows, transforming into 2 long swords that slashed towards Chiba. Kurenai tried to stop him, but Asuma was so overwhelmed with rage that he couldn't calm down. Chiba hugged Kurenai and dodged outside. While he wasn't afraid of Asuma, he didn't want to ruin the noodle shop. After all, he still wanted to eat there often. Kurenai, held in Chiba's arms, didn't resist at all. Only then did she gradually calm down. Thinking back on what had just happened, she couldn't even look at Chiba's face. She wished she could crawl into a hole in the ground. What absurdity. Soon, the 2 of them arrived at an open area. As soon as Chiba put down Kurenai, Asuma rushed in front of them and slashed at Chiba with a knife. At this moment, Asuma had already made up his mind, wanting to chop Chiba in half in one breath. Waste! I'm going to kill you, Asuma roared while attacking. Just you. Chiba stopped at this moment and ignored Asuma who was rushing towards him. Just you, I'm afraid it's not enough. Then, a flash of lightning appeared on Chiba's surface. The temperature around him began to rise continuously, and lightning flashed one after another. Is this the thunder armor? Asuma looked at Chiba in some surprise. He mistook the power of the thunder fruit for the thunder armor of the 4th Raikage. But soon, Asuma's reason was once again shattered by anger. What about the thunder armor? I must chop you today. As Asuma thought as he leaped into the air, continuously concentrating his chakra into the hit iron blade, making the 2 chakra blades extending from it even more powerful. Then, with one blow, he slashed directly at Chiba. Asuma's face was grim, then a hint of mockery appeared. Facing his full-strength attack, even a Jonin would be injured, but Chiba chose not to dodge, a clear sign of arrogance. But the next moment, the mockery on Asuma's face gave way to deep shock. He discovered that his chakra had mysteriously disappeared. Or perhaps, melted? I told you, you're too weak. Then, Chiba's mocking voice rang out. Asuma was so furious that a trickle of blood flowed from his mouth. Fire style, Ashburn, Asuma retreated several steps and quickly formed hand seals. But just as he finished the hand seals and prepared to perform his ninjutsu, he realized that Chiba had disappeared without a trace. Too slow, a ghostly voice came from behind, and Asuma hurriedly tried to turn around. But before he could turn around, a bolt of lightning rushed into his body. Ah! Asuma screamed, his body was filled with lightning, and his chakra was disordered. Asuma's body was covered with countless charred spots, his hair exploded, and he collapsed to the ground with his eyes rolled back. One move, an instant kill. Kurenai, who was standing by, was stunned by this scene, and looked at Chiba in shock. Is this the man she likes? Chapter 7, 3 Generations Summons. Early in the morning, Kurenai arrived at the Ninja Academy. She had just completed a mission and was taking a break. Since the school was short on staff, she came to mentor some of the new students and see if she could find a suitable disciple. But Kurenai seemed distracted. Her mind was still fascinated by the scene she had just witnessed. Chiba, with a single blow, had instantly killed Asuma. Asuma was now a Jonin. While not considered one of the top Jonin in Konoha, killing him instantly with a single blow was incredibly difficult. Kurenai admitted that Asuma's carelessness was partly to blame, But it also demonstrated Chiba's immense strength. As she recalled the battle scene, her mind couldn't help but revisit the incident at Ichiraku's. Her first kiss had been given to Chiba. Chiba had actually kissed her too. Was it his first kiss, too? Kurenai scratched her head and shook it frantically. What on earth was she thinking about? Why was she thinking about that bastard? Hooligan. Pervert. Kurenai thought secretly. But then she remembered that not long after the incident, Chiba was taken to the Hokage's office alone by the Anbu, which made Kurenai worry about Chiba. Asuma is the Hokage's son. And Chiba has just let go of such a big mistake. This made her worry about Chiba's safety. However, even she cannot enter the Hokage's office without the permission of the third Hokage. At this moment, Kurenai silently took out a pendant on her chest, which was the one Chiba gave her that year. Kurenai covered the pendant and began to pray for Chiba silently. In the Hokage's office, the third Hokage was still holding his pipe, looking at Chiba in front of him with a serious face. Itachi had already told him all the information about Chiba. Originally, after knowing Chiba's talent, the third Hokage felt a little regretful. After all, he is a person whose talent is even beyond Kakashi and Itachi, and he will surely become the top combat force of Konoha in the future. If he really had to bite the bullet and save him, although it was risky, it was worth considering. But in the blink of an eye, he knew that Chiba had beaten Asuma. At this moment, Asuma was still receiving treatment in the medical department, which made it impossible for the third generation to have a good face towards Chiba. Chiba, do you know how much trouble you have caused? Chiba shook his head indifferently. Although you are not a ninja yet, you know the situation of the village very well. After the Nine Tails Rebellion, the village was already seriously injured, and then the invasion of Kumogakure consumed a lot of the village's strength. The village today can no longer withstand the war. I finally won the opportunity to negotiate with Kumogakure, but you killed the ninja they sent to sign the peace agreement. Do you still think you are right? The third generation knocked on the table with a pipe in his hand, his eyes fixed on Chiba, with a sense of majesty without anger. I killed him because he wanted to kidnap Hinata, and Kumogakure's peace talks weren't sincere in the first place. They were just trying to take advantage of the situation to send someone into Konoha and steal the Hyuga clan's Byakugan. Such a simple truth. Couldn't the third eye not see it? Right, the third eye shook his head. Even so, you shouldn't have killed him. With your abilities, you could easily have subdued him and handed him over to me. After the incident, the third eye personally examined the Kumogakure ninja's wound. One strike, instant kill. This convinced the third eye that Chiba's strength far surpassed the Kumogakure ninja's, which is why he sent Itachi to test his abilities. Unfortunately, Chiba was incredibly talented, bound to become a cage-level powerhouse in the future. However, he was inherently rebellious. Now it seemed that staying would only threaten his position as Hokage. The third eye pondered inwardly. He infiltrated the Hyuga clan and kidnapped their eldest daughter. Can't he be killed? No, the third eye replied firmly. Hearing this, Chiba shook his head in disappointment. He understood that even though the ninja books claimed the third Hokage was the strongest Hokage of all time, he was still far weaker than the first and second Hokage. Moreover, over the years, Konoha had lost its talent under the manipulation of the third Hokage and Danzo. First, White Fang, who had shocked the ninja world, chose suicide. Then, the three ninjas of Konoha, who had shocked the ninja world, left the village one after another. Then, Minato Namikaze, known as the Yellow Flash, perished in the Nine Tails Rebellion. And now, two of the Uchiha clan's greatest prodigies, Uchiha Shisu and Uchiha Itachi, were suspected by Konoha's high command because of their own clans, and their lives were numbered. How could Konoha remain strong in this situation? The third Hokage undoubtedly had a good hand, but he had played it into his own hands. Now, was he trying to give himself away? Hokage-sama, perhaps, you are getting old, Chiba asked. Upon hearing this, the third Hokage's gaze fixed. An invisible murderous intent locked onto Chiba. This brat is so arrogant. Back when the first and second day were around, was Konoha ever so cowardly? When Kumogakure sent people to kidnap Hinata, not only did Konoha not ask for an explanation, but it even wanted to sacrifice Konoha's ninjas to settle the matter. Are you doing this because I, Hyuga Chiba, was the one who murdered them, or because you're too old to even have the courage to fight? Upon hearing this, the third day took a few more puffs of his cigarette. He didn't respond. He didn't know how to respond. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Kumogakure's kidnapping of Hinata was Kumogakure's fault. What's the big deal about killing one person? They should have been forced to give an explanation. But now, he wants to hand over Chiba and settle the matter peacefully. Itachi should have told you what I said. Whoever offends Konoha will be killed. Whoever offends Hyuga will be killed. Whoever offends me will be killed, but this is assuming Konoha won't abandon me. If Kumogakure comes for me, you can let them come to me themselves, Chiba said. He wouldn't be so stupid as to sacrifice himself. If a village is unwilling to protect him, why should he protect it? After hearing what Chiba said, the third generation fell into deep thought. After a long time, he finally said, "You are not a ninja yet, and you are not qualified to negotiate with them as a ninja. Tomorrow is the day of the ninja school graduation exam. You can also take part in it. As long as you can pass the exam and become a ninja, you can negotiate with a Kumogakure ninja yourself. Of course, if you can't do it, hand over your eyes. The village can't withstand the war, but you must never show your Byakugan to the enemy." If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8, Gentle Fist. After a nice, hot bath, Chiba lazily laid back on his bed. He'd fought Itachi all day, then taught Asuma a lesson. Both attacks had left him feeling exhausted. Chiba didn't pay much attention to what the third Hokage had said to him in the Hokage's office. Even there, he'd sensed the third Hokage's murderous intent. Konoha's two major families of Dojutsu were arguably its only trump card. If the Dojutsu were lost, Konoha would have no advantage over the other ninja villages. Konoha would be on the defensive, swept by the flames of war. So, no matter what, the third Hokage wouldn't hand him over completely to Kumogakure. His fate might be the same as Hyuga Hisashi's in the original story, death, his eye destroyed. As for the so-called assessment, since the third Hokage already knew his strength and was putting him through it again, it was clear he wasn't going to let him pass easily. Lying in bed, his mind cleared, a feeling of exhaustion immediately washed over him. Soon, Chiba fell asleep. After an unknown amount of time, Chiba felt an itch on his face. He instinctively reached out to scratch, but the itch returned after a short while. This cycle continued, and Chiba finally opened his eyes impatiently. But the moment he opened his eyes, he was met with a lovely face, and his impatience vanished. "Brother Chiba, you're finally awake," Hinata said to Chiba with a smile. Only in Chiba's presence could she feel so comfortable, never shy or reserved around others. She was filled with sunshine. There was light in her eyes. "What's wrong?" Seeing Hinata, Chiba immediately pulled her into a hug, rubbing her head affectionately, as if she were petting a cuddly toy. "Father asked you to come over once," Hinata said with a smile. "Hinata?" Chiba frowned slightly, but seeing Hinata's smile, he felt embarrassed to refuse. Arriving in the training room, Chiba saw Hinata sitting there since morning. "Master of the house," Chiba called out casually. After killing the Kumogakure ninja, Hyuga Hayashi's first order was to keep Chiba from leaving Konoha, a clear statement of his stance. Chiba didn't believe it was to protect him. After all, he was the man willing to sacrifice even his own brother for the village. "Father, Brother Chiba is here," Hinata whispered. Hayashi's usual sternness, coupled with the undeniable aura of the head of the house, intimidated the young Hinata. Normally, Hinata dreaded being alone with her father. But today, for Chiba's sake, Hinata had gone to Hayashi for the first time. This surprised Hayashi, but also because it was a rare request from his daughter, and he couldn't refuse. "Come here," Hayashi called out softly. Reluctantly, Hinata left Chiba's sight and obediently walked towards Hayashi, glancing back at Chiba, her eyes filled with reluctance. "Do you know why you were summoned today?" Hinata. Hayashi now looked at Chiba again. Chiba looked bewildered. Was it to convince him? Huh? He exhaled deeply, glanced at Hinata beside him, and muttered to himself, "Girls should never be kept at home when they grow up." Hinata. Hayashi slowly stood up. "Hokage-sama has already spoken with you. You should know how special your status is now. Logically, I shouldn't hand it over to you now, but I don't understand why Hinata likes you so much, begging me all day. Well, your future is your own business, but as a member of the Hyuga clan, I will teach you what I should teach you, besides the Byakugan. What else makes our Hyuga clan famous in the ninja world?" At this moment, Chiba finally understood. He then looked at Hinata beside him, his eyes filled with emotion. Although he now possessed the thunder fruit and the buggy system of the traveling frog, he didn't care much for ordinary ninjutsu. But Hinata had begged Hayashi Hyuga for a long time for her sake, and this kindness was enough to move him. Gentle fist, indeed. The Hyuga clan all fight with a gentle fist, but it requires mastering the Byakugan. Since you didn't open your Byakugan before, naturally, I didn't teach you. Now, I'll start with the most basic acupressure techniques. Byakugan, open. The Hyuga clan instantly opened their Byakugan. Then, in the Hyuga clan's training room, Chiba Hyuga began training with Hayashi Hyuga. Seeing this, Hinata clenched her small fists. Brother Chiba, you must practice diligently. Nothing can happen to you. It's a pity Hinata can't help you much. Although she was young, she already understood everything. She was doing her best to ensure Chiba's safety. After all, the more power Chiba possessed, the safer he would be. Kumogakure village. Now, in the Raikage's office. Boom. With a resounding bang, the Raikage smashed the table in front of him into smithereens. Daru, standing by, was instantly stunned and silently kept his distance from the Raikage. With that kind of power, could he still be saved from a single punch? Outrageous. Konoha is so bold. They've actually killed our people. The fourth Raikage surveyed the intelligence before him. The information had only just reached Kumo village a few days ago, but just as Sarutobi Hiruzen had predicted, upon learning of it, instead of panicking at the revelation of their purpose, he was furious. Konoha was now too weak. So weak that he no longer took it seriously. So weak that he believed Konoha had no power to retaliate. So weak that he believed no one in Konoha could stand up to him. He had assumed that even if his men were discovered, they would at most be detained by Konoha, but would eventually be sent back. Who could have imagined that Konoha, seemingly so weak, would dare to act so boldly? Lord Raikage, this might be a good thing. At that moment, a voice like a silver bell rang out. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a beautiful figure. Her impressive figure, in particular, made her one of the few women in the ninja world to rival Tsunade's. Samu. Samu, what do you mean? The Raikage, still furious, asked in dissatisfaction. Perhaps, this way, the village can gain greater benefits from Konoha? Samu's lips curved slightly. She already had a comprehensive plan in mind. Chapter 9 Uchiha Shisu. Speak, the fourth Raikage said impatiently. He was impulsive and irritable, so how could he tolerate Samu keeping him in suspense? Our goal wasn't to negotiate peace with Konoha. Now that the person we sent to sign the peace documents has died in Konoha, it gives us an opportunity. We can seize this opportunity and force Konoha to hand over the murderer. According to intelligence, the murderer is from the Hyuga clan. As long as Konoha hands him over, we can still get the Byakugan, otherwise, we'll go to war. Given Sarutobi Hiruzen's character, he definitely won't go to war with Kumogakure. After Samu's analysis, everyone present nodded in agreement. In Kumogakure's eyes, Konoha was no longer the foremost power it once was. Sarutobi Hiruzen's tolerance towards the outside world was seen as a sign of weakness by the Kumogakure ninjas. In that case, Samu, lead your men to Konoha and present our demands. Bring back that ignorant brat. True, prepare your troops. Starting today, station them at the Konoha border. If Sarutobi Hiruzen refuses to hand over the prisoners, we can be ready to resume the battle at any time. The fourth Raikage pondered for a moment before issuing his order. Samu, if you can successfully bring back the Byakugan this time, you will be a hero to the Hidden Cloud Village. Samu beamed with joy upon hearing this. 3 days. For 3 days, Chiba diligently practiced the soft fist. Now, he has mastered the 8 diagrams 64 palms and can even perform the heaven returning technique. At first, Chiba thought the soft fist was of little use to him, but now he realizes that it truly is a specialty of the Hyuga clan, perfectly synergizing with the Byakugan, unleashing its full power. Coupled with the physical enhancements he received from the Thunder Fruit, he has a natural advantage in Taijutsu training. Watching Chiba's training, Hyuga Hayashi was filled with turmoil. He had never imagined that Chiba, once considered useless by the Hyuga clan, could possess such incredible talent. In just 3 days, he had mastered the gentle fist to this level. Few in the entire Hyuga clan could match him. What a pity. If he could continue to improve, he might lead the Hyuga clan to the pinnacle in the future, Hyuga Hayashi thought to himself. The Hyuga and Uchiha clans were known as Konoha's 2 great Taijutsu clans. But now, the Uchiha clan was teeming with talent. Uchiha Shisu, Uchiha Itachi, and Uchiha Fugaku were all renowned prodigies in Konoha. Meanwhile, the Hyuga clan, in what a state of decline, seemed to be. Furthermore, the Sharingan could evolve into the Mangekyo Sharingan, leading many to believe that the Sharingan's power surpassed that of the Byakugan. As the head of the Hyuga clan, how could he accept this? At that moment, Hyuga Hayashi even felt the urge to protect Chiba. Unfortunately, with the village's interests at stake, even he was powerless. Forget Chiba, even if they had to hand over Hisashi, or even himself, he would have had no choice but to accept it. Thinking of this, Hisashi felt a slight pang of regret, and then turned and left. Finally, I've mastered it. The setting sun cast its last rays on the training ground. Dozens of Chiba were now standing there. As the voice fell, they simultaneously disintegrated into puffs of smoke. Yes, these were Chiba's shadow clones. They had been diligently training here since afternoon. Meanwhile, Chiba's true form lay leisurely sunbathing by a stream in the forest. Suddenly, a wave of information flooded his mind, accompanied by a wave of aches and pains. Chiba knew his training had finally come to an end. Fortunately, he was a time traveler and had already learned how to cultivate through shadow clones. Otherwise, mastering Yanwei in just 3 days would have been a real challenge. Feeling the aches in his body, Chiba, who had been basking in the sun all day, slowly rose. It was getting late, and it was time to go home. But at that moment, Chiba suddenly felt several streams of chakra surge in his direction. Enemy attack, Byakugan. Chiba immediately activated his Byakugan, allowing him to see everything within a kilometer radius. Is it them? After seeing the identity of the newcomers, Chiba was slightly surprised. Then, a sudden thought struck him, and he found a secluded corner to hide. Whoosh, 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 a series of breaking winds could be heard. 6 figures appeared where Chiba had just stood. Danzo-sama, one of them knelt on one knee and shouted respectfully. This person was none other than Uchiha Shisu, the renowned Uchiha clan ninja of Konoha. Shisu was one of only 2 members of the Uchiha clan to have opened the Mangekyo Sharingan. Moreover, his Kido Matsukami was known as the most powerful illusion technique, and his name, Flickering Shisu, was known throughout the ninja world. Even someone as rebellious as Danzo had to admit that Shisu now possessed cage-level strength, a threat to Konoha's security. He absolutely could not tolerate this. Before Shisu stood a man with half his face bandaged. It was none other than Danzo. The other 4 were Danzo's trusted root members, each one a Jonin. Mission accomplished, complete, Shisu declared. Although not a root member, Danzo, as a high-ranking member of Konoha, still had the authority to issue orders. At this moment, Shisu suddenly noticed that Danzo had fallen silent. Curious, he looked up at Danzo. Just then, Danzo suddenly attacked him. Grabbing him, he tore out one of Shisu's eyes before he could react. Ah! Shisu let out a painful wail. The 4 surrounding root members instantly attacked, joining forces to attack Shisu. Susanoo, Shisu had his eye ripped out by Danzo, severely wounded. Now facing the onslaught of 4 Jonin, he was nearly unable to resist. In the nick of time, he forcibly activated Susanoo. Boom! 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 The 4 attacks slammed into Susanoo, sending up clouds of dust. When the smoke cleared, everyone discovered Shisu was hiding within a massive skull, clutching a bloody eye and gasping for air. What is this? Is this the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan? Danzo frowned as he gazed at the Susanoo before him. Even he was seeing this technique for the first time. The sheer volume of chakra frightened everyone present. Chapter 10 Shisu's Eyes. But at that moment, Shisu's body began to tremble uncontrollably, and the Susanoo on his body was constantly swaying, struggling to maintain its position. Are you too injured to activate this jutsu? Danzo glanced at Shisu, his eyes filled with indifference. Shisu's strength had already threatened Konoha. According to his intelligence, the Uchiha clan had already begun plotting a rebellion, but Shisu wanted to use Kido Matsukami to control the Uchiha clan members and prevent this. This was not what Danzo wanted. Danzo wanted to use this as an excuse to eliminate the Uchiha clan. So before that, he naturally had to eliminate Shisu and take his eyes. Since they had taken action today, Shisu's death was certain. Kill! With Danzo's cry, 4 Jonin quickly rushed towards Shisu. Flash body jutsu, but no one expected that Shisu would suddenly open his remaining eye. His Mangekyo Sharingan began to rotate, and Shisu's figure instantly disappeared. 4 screams rang out in quick succession. 4 elite root ninjas were instantly killed by Shisu. Though gravely wounded, Shisu still lived up to his name, Instantaneous Shisu. But at this moment, blood suddenly gushed from Shisu's eyes, and he began to cough violently. The pain in his body now made it difficult for him to even stand. Danzo-sama, why? Shisu looked at Danzo in confusion and asked. But Danzo didn't answer, only stepping closer. The assassination of Shisu was a secret plan, and Danzo had not brought many people with him. But it was enough. The next second, Danzo suddenly accelerated. Shisu suddenly pulled 2 smoke bombs from his backpack, threw them, and then took the opportunity to escape. Chiba, who was watching this, immediately left quietly. Shisu continued to run. The excruciating pain made it difficult for him to move, but his willpower kept him going. He knew he would surely die today. Furthermore, he had no will to live, for he knew that if he remained alive and the Uchiha clan learned of his eye, it would only exacerbate the conflict between the village and the Uchiha clan. However, he still had one thing left to do. He hadn't yet passed on his will to protect the village and the clan. A figure flashed through Shisu's mind. Itachi, come here quickly. Just then, he had sent a signal known only to him and Itachi, believing Itachi was on his way. But the next moment, Shisu let out a desperate smile. He noticed that over a dozen more root ninjas were surrounding him. It seemed Danzo was so determined to kill him that he was even willing to risk exposure by summoning so many root ninjas. Just as Shisu prepared for a desperate fight, a flash of lightning suddenly appeared. It ripped through the crowd, sending streams of blood flying wherever it passed. Only after all the surrounding root members had fallen did Shisu see the figure within the lightning. Shisu was still in shock. He discovered that this person's speed was surprisingly comparable to his own flickering technique. Lightning release, flickering technique? Even the 4th Raikage of the Hidden Cloud Village couldn't match such abilities, right? It's you. Shisu was even more surprised after seeing the person clearly. Hinata Chiba. He had a certain impression of Chiba. However, he had always remembered him as a useless person unable to concentrate chakra, the object of ridicule by the Konoha people. Shisu had been away on a mission for some time and had just returned, so he didn't know Chiba had killed the Hidden Cloud emissary. So, facing such a powerful Chiba, Shisu was filled with disbelief. Danzo wants to kill you, you know. Shisu looked at Chiba warily. At the same time, Chiba sensed a murderous intent. This startled Chiba, and then he couldn't help but laugh bitterly. He hadn't expected that, at this moment, Shisu would actually want to help Danzo silence him. As for the reason, Chiba could roughly guess it was nothing more than that ridiculous excuse brainwashed by the will of fire. Sometimes Chiba admired the third. Although his strength was far inferior to the first and second, his brainwashing techniques were unmatched not only in Konoha but also in the ninja world. You can't kill me now, so don't waste your energy, and I can promise that this matter won't be leaked. I will never use your death to incite the Uchiha clan to revolt, Chiba said, looking at Shisu with a smile. Shisu's heart finally relaxed at this. Shisu was already feeling immense pain, and had just been tempted to force his way out. Now that his mind had relaxed, the pain surged through his limbs again, causing him to stagger and eventually collapse to the ground. If I remember correctly, your name is Hinata Chiba, right? Shisu looked up at Chiba before him and spoke weakly. Chiba nodded. You're here for more than just helping me, right? I suppose you want my eye, too? Shisu spoke without fear. He was prepared for death, let alone a single eye. Chiba didn't deny it. After acquiring the traveling frog, there weren't many things in the ninja world that could tempt him. And Shisu's Kido Matsukami was one of them. Known as the most powerful illusion, if Kido Matsukami could be used to control Tsunade and Mei Terumi. Ahem, no, why would he have such a thought? Such a powerful illusion must be used in crucial situations. I promise you, I'll protect Konoha in crucial moments, Chiba said. He wasn't sure how Konoha would react to him yet, and he might even become a traitor in the future. But if Shisu was willing to give him his eye, even if he became a traitor, he would return to protect Konoha in the future. For example, if pain attacked the village. Of course, Chiba could easily take Shisu's eye, but he didn't want to. Shisu was one of the few Uchiha clan members he admired. He possessed a talent for eye techniques that surpassed Itachi's, and at a young age, he had become renowned in the ninja world. In the end, he even willingly died before Itachi for the sake of the village. Even if he thought his actions were foolish, Chiba still admired him. Shisu remained silent. He knew he had no power to resist. Chiba's promise to him at this moment was truly heartfelt. After a long pause, Shisu finally spoke. I have one more request. Under the setting sun, Chiba ran alone. In his hand was a small bottle, containing Shisu's eyes. Chapter 11. Itachi God opens his eyes. After returning home, Chiba looked at Shisu's eye in his hand, feeling a surge of excitement. But soon, he felt a sense of embarrassment. Although he had Shisu's eye, how could he use it? Using Kido Matsukami required chakra as powerful as Hashirama Senju, otherwise it would take a full 10 years to cool down. 10 years was too long for Chiba to wait. And even though Kido Matsukami was in his possession, where would he transplant it? If he transplanted it into his own eye, not to mention the possibility of the Uchiha clan coming to seek revenge, Chiba would absolutely not tolerate such self-harm. System, is there any way to deal with this eye? Chiba, helpless, could only mentally ask the system. Ding, host, this system can automatically absorb the power of this eye, transforming it into the host's own strength. Chiba? Holy crap! Such an amazing function? Chiba nearly jumped out of his skin at the system's prompt. Host, when are you ready to absorb it? Now. Immediately. Immediately. Ding. Processing, decomposing, transforming. Ding. Congratulations to the host. Transformation complete. At this moment, Chiba saw that the glass bottle in his hand had become an empty bottle, and at this moment, he felt a burning sensation in his left eye. Was this Shisu's eye? Chiba now had another trump card. The Uchiha clan. At this moment, Uchiha Itachi was alone in the courtyard, enjoying the cool air, gazing up at the sky. It had been 3 days since Shisu disappeared. In those 3 days, the Uchiha clan had nearly turned Konoha upside down. After all, Shisu was now the clan's top genius, and would shoulder the heavy responsibility of revitalizing the Uchiha clan in the future. But even with such a long search, nothing was found. Itachi had a secret in his heart, one he had never shared with anyone else. It was the night Shisu disappeared that he received Shisu's distress signal. But when he arrived, he saw only traces of battle, and Shisu was long gone. Because of this, he even missed the clan meeting, and many within the Uchiha clan were already resentful of him. Brother, come train with Sasuke, okay? At that moment, a tender voice echoed from the side. It was the young Sasuke. Itachi turned and looked at Sasuke behind him. The worry on his face instantly disappeared, transformed into a warm smile. After all, the Uchiha clan's brother obsession cannot be ignored. But at that moment, Itachi's gaze suddenly fixed. Sasuke, go back to the house first. Brother will come to see you later, Itachi said to Sasuke. Although Sasuke didn't understand what Itachi meant, he nodded obediently. Then, Itachi's voice faded into a shadow, rushing towards the outside of the Uchiha clan. Whoosh, 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 in a few flashes, Itachi saw the figure before him. A familiar figure. Once, in Itachi's eyes, he was just a useless person. But not long ago, Itachi had been defeated by him, and he had become a huge stone weighing down Itachi's heart. Chiba-kun? You came looking for me. Itachi was surprised. He had just heard the unique code between him and Shisu, and had just pulled himself out, but he hadn't expected to see Chiba. You should know why I knew that code. Chiba turned around. Itachi looked at Chiba, and suddenly, Chiba's left eye pupil changed, transforming into the Sharingan. Then, it transformed again, becoming the main Gekyo Sharingan. Caught off guard, Itachi was instantly drawn into the illusion by Chiba. Watch quietly. This is Shisu's last wish. This was Shisu's dying request, that Chiba open his eyes. In Chiba's illusion, Itachi witnessed Shisu's eyes being taken away by Danzo, and then he was alone and surrounded by the crowd. Later, Shisu met Chiba and gave him his eye. Then, he committed suicide. The moment he saw Shisu himself, tears streamed down Itachi's face. Then, his eyes transformed into the Sharingan. Then, it continued to transform, evolving into the main Gekyo Sharingan. The next second, Itachi used his eye technique to break through the illusion. Why you? Itachi looked at Chiba in confusion. He knew that Chiba's eye was Shisu's. But he couldn't understand why Shisu was willing to give him the eye when Chiba wasn't from the Uchiha clan. Have you ever thought about why Shisu asked for this at the last moment instead of asking you for something else? Because in Shisu's heart, you are the one who can inherit his will. But do you understand Shisu's will? Chiba's words left Itachi silent. What was Shisu's will? Shisu was not only Itachi's teacher, but also his best friend. Over the years, Whenever Itachi felt lost, he would seek Shiso out to confide in him. The two had discussed issues between the village and the family more than once. Shiso always believed that his and Itachi's existence was to strive to maintain a balance between the two. Did Shiso wish to continue? The relationship between the village and the family must have troubled you for a long time, right? I told you last time, the meaning of a village is to protect, not to sacrifice it. Itachi, have you thought about what I said when you returned? Itachi remained silent. He had, in fact, given it much thought, and wondered whether it was right or wrong to continue spying on the family for the Anbu. But he never found an answer. Sometimes, if you can't find an answer, try a different approach. You don't have to give up either the village or the family. Perhaps, with a new leader, all problems can be solved. With that, Chiba vanished from the scene. Itachi waited long after Chiba had left before he finally turned around, his mind still resonating with Chiba's words. Chiba, on the other hand, relished the thrill of his verbal stunt. Seeing Itachi didn't utter a word in rebuttal, he was already satisfied. He had always wondered why the geniuses of the Uchiha clan were so thoroughly brainwashed. It seemed that in their eyes, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo represented Konoha. But was that really the case? The third Hokage is weak, Danzo is dark, and the two of them have joined forces to make Konoha's talent wither. Is this the only option? Humph. Chiba doesn't care about this. In his world, there is no such thing as blind loyalty. Whoever wants to kill him must pay the price. Chapter 12 Ninja Assessment. The Uchiha clan was severely weakened by Shisu's disappearance. Their original ambitions for rebellion were temporarily extinguished by Shisu's disappearance. After all, without Shisu, their top fighter, the Uchiha clan's chances of success would be greatly reduced. Ninja School. Today was the annual graduation day. After today, many people would graduate and become ninjas. Ninja School was always bustling at this time of year, but today, it was even more lively than ever. Because, in addition to the freshman assessments, another person would be taking the exam to become a ninja. In the eyes of Konoha, Chiba had shed the label of waste no longer. What a joke. He could have beaten Asuma to the point of hospitalization. If he was still worthless, then what was Asuma? While the ninja school was bustling with activity, the third Hokage sat in the Hokage's office, at a loss. He held a piece of intelligence. According to estimates, the ninjas from Kumogakure would arrive in Konoha in a day. He knew the purpose of Kumogakure's visit. Come in, the third Hokage suddenly said. A puff of smoke appeared, followed by a figure. This is the last round, you'll be in charge. Make sure Chiba's eyes are destroyed, the third Hokage declared. The person before him seemed to hesitate, but quickly vanished into smoke. Next, Hyuga Chiba, at the Ninja Academy, Iruka, in charge of the assessment, took a deep breath and called out the name. The crowd erupted in excitement. Many wanted to see how impressive this once famous loser would be. It was common knowledge throughout Konoha that the third Hokage personally set the exam and would increase its difficulty. This was precisely why so many people had gathered to watch. The world of ninja wasn't some cliched novel, it was a world of passion. Seeing a loser's comeback ignite the passion in even the most spectators. Is that Chiba-kun? What's so handsome? Many girls screamed as Chiba appeared. In the past, Chiba's reputation as a worthless loser resonated throughout Konoha, and few had ever seen him. But today, he appeared before everyone's eyes, carrying an aura of comeback, driving many of the girls present wildly. In the crowd, Kurona Iyuhi glanced at the screaming girls around her. Among them was one of her own students, a sight that made her want to lash out. Damn, why is this guy so handsome? Achu Chiba, entering the arena, suddenly sneezed. Why did he feel so guilty? Could his opponent be formidable? He seems even more handsome than Itachi. A young girl in the crowd chimed in like a silver bell. Everyone in this area wore the uniforms of the Uchiha clan, it was their gathering place. And the person who had just spoken was none other than Uchiha Izumi, Itachi's childhood sweetheart. Ever since Chiba's appearance, Itachi's gaze had been fixed on the figure, a complex expression on his face. Uchiha Izumi, standing nearby, noticed this and casually made a joke. Izumi, what kind of person do you think he is? Izumi had initially assumed Itachi wouldn't respond, but then, Itachi suddenly spoke. Hearing Itachi's question, Izumi felt a sense of bewilderment. Why was Itachi asking that? Was he jealous? As she pondered this, a sweet feeling welled up in her heart. Izumi doesn't know Chiba-kun, but I know Itachi-kun is definitely the best. With that, Izumi's arms clasped around Itachi's. Her pretty face flushed. Amidst the crowd, another figure sat in a wheelchair, gazing down at Chiba with resentment. Then, his gaze shifted to the stands, finally resting on Kurona Yuhi. Kurona, you forced me to do this. Just wait and see, today I'll destroy this brat before your very eyes, you'll be mine sooner or later. This person was none other than Asuma. Asuma, now completely darkened. The test soon began. However, everyone knew that the previous three-body technique was merely a formality. Victory over Asuma at least proved Chiba possessed the strength of a Jonin. How could he not even possess the simple Sanshinjutsu? Poor Asuma. If he knew that Chiba had, in everyone's eyes, risen above his reputation, he'd probably vomit blood in anger and be sent back to the hospital. Finally, the final test was approaching. It hinged on Chiba's ability to become a ninja. It also hinged on his fate. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a figure slowly emerged. It was none other than the third Hokage. The moment the third Hokage appeared, the entire Ninja Academy erupted in excitement. Chiba, the final round of the test is a sparring match. Given your age and the agreement you made with me, this test will be much more difficult than the others. I hope you give your best and pass, the third Hokage said slowly. Although he deeply hoped Chiba would not fail, he put on a show of defiance. The crowd in the stands was bewildered. Clearly, few knew of the agreement between Chiba and the third Hokage, but many were still excited. A few people frowned slightly. They realized it seemed like the third Hokage was deliberately making things difficult for Chiba. Becoming a Jonin was already enough for Chiba back then, so why was the challenge being made so difficult now just to become a Jonin? Was there just too many ninjas in Konoha? That was clearly impossible. But these people remained silent. After all, the third Hokage still held immense prestige in Konoha, and no one would challenge his decisions. As the seconds ticked by, sweat began to form on Iruka's forehead. He had just learned who would be taking the test, but the time had already arrived, and the examiner still hadn't appeared. Was this guy late? Hurry up, what are you waiting for? Come on, Chiba-kun, Chiba-kun, I want to give birth to your children, Chiba-kun, be my boyfriend. Impatient voices were already rising from the stands, with many girls screaming at Chiba. Kurona Yuhi clenched her fists as she listened to these words. At this moment, a petite figure approached Hong. Teacher Hong, do you like Chiba too? Hong lowered her head and saw Hinata, who had appeared beside her out of nowhere. Her face subconsciously blushed. Just as Hong was at a loss for words, a puff of smoke appeared in the air. Someone had finally arrived. Chapter 13, the future great rider of the ninja world. His face was covered by a black mask, with a forward protector obscuring one eye. His silver hair shone brightly in the sunlight. But what captivated Chiba the most at that moment was the book he held in his hands. A book that rivaled, if not surpassed, Intimate Paradise. Upon seeing the newcomer, Chiba's lips curled up. After making the appointment, Chiba began to consider the candidate for the assessment. Having already defeated Asuma, the third Hokage naturally knew Chiba's strength. The third Hokage and Denzo wouldn't act rashly, and among Konoha's Jonin, only a handful surpassed Asuma in strength. After much deliberation, Kakashi seemed the most suitable candidate. A genius ninja, possessing the Sharingan, he also mastered Chiba's specialty, lightning release. In terms of experience and intelligence, Kakashi far surpassed Chiba. This way, everything was foolproof. Of course, this was the third Hokage's thought. He never dreamed that, just a few days ago, Chiba had already guessed that Kakashi would be the candidate for the assessment. He immediately presented Kakashi with a small gift. It was the book Kakashi was currently admiring, Young XXX. In his previous life, Chiba was an online novelist. This novel was a nationwide sensation. While Chiba couldn't memorize it completely, the general plot, combined with Chiba's polished writing, surpassed Jiraiya's Intimate Paradise in quality. After the first glance, Kakashi couldn't stop reading. Days of arduous late-night study had left him with dark circles under his eyes. As for why Chiba was able to produce a novel so quickly, the reason was simple. Although this was a ninja world, he refused to give up his dreams from his previous life. So, he'd already begun writing this book, completing 3 volumes simultaneously. He was just waiting for Jiraiya to help him find a publisher for the Naruto world when he ran into him. It wasn't long before the ninja world's greatest literary giant was born. Sorry, I'm late. I'm not late, am I? Kakashi rubbed his head and glanced at Iruka beside him. Iruka's heart raced. If it weren't for Kakashi being his senior, he'd have wanted to punch him. Taking 2 deep breaths, Iruka managed to calm himself. Begin. With that, Iruka withdrew from the battlefield. Chiba and Kakashi stood, staring at each other. Kakashi put away the book, though he glanced at it reluctantly at the last moment. Chiba, thank you so much for giving me this book. You will undoubtedly become a greater literary master than Jiraiya-sama, but I hope you understand that even so, I will not show you any mercy, Kakashi said. Wow. It's Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi-sensei is so strong. Can Chiba-kun handle it? Oh my god, Kakashi-sensei is so handsome too, but I think Chiba-kun is even more handsome. Do 2 such handsome men have to face each other? How wonderful it would be if it was for me, a girl asked. At her words, several people nearby turned around. Seeing that dinosaur-like face, they took a few steps back in shock. HMPH. What copy ninja? It's all just borrowing the power of us Uchiha? Someone from the Uchiha clan said with disdain. The Uchiha clan had never been fond of Kakashi, who only had a Sharingan. It was only because of his status in Konoha that they had refrained from attempting to reclaim it. At that moment, Kakashi pulled up his forward protector. Are you going to use your Sharingan right out of the gate? Go ahead, Kakashi. Burn your youth. In the stands, Kai saw this and gave Kakashi a thumbs up, saying. Kurani's heart leaped into her throat at the sight. Although she had confidence in Chiba's abilities, Kakashi was simply too strong. Genius Ninja, Son of White Fang, Copy Ninja, each title shone brightly above him. In contrast, Chiba, aside from his victory over Asuma, didn't seem to have any impressive achievements in the eyes of the Konoha crowd. Using the Sharingan right off the bat? Can your chakra hold up? Chiba, observing Kakashi's stance, showed no sign of panic. Kakashi's chakra was limited to begin with. Add to that the depletion over the past few days, and he must be at the end of his rope. Kakashi didn't respond, instead focusing his attention on Chiba. He knew his body was truly drained. Therefore, if he had to strike, he had to do it swiftly. Kakashi's figure vanished into shadow as he rushed towards Chiba. Earth-style, Earth Dragon Bomb, Kakashi rapidly formed hand seals, blasting a barrage of shells towards Chiba. However, Chiba showed no concern. He activated the Thunder Fruit, and lightning instantly permeated his body. The Earth-style shells bombarded him, with no effect at all. The 4th Raikage's lightning armor? When did he learn it? Kakashi frowned. Since it's a lightning armor, this was the only move he could use. Kakashi frantically channeled his chakra towards his right hand, and a ball of light, brimming with lightning, appeared above it. Raikage, Kakashi roared. He had mastered the Raikage form to perfection, using it to pierce Chiba's lightning armor. Veins bulged across Chiba's face. Byakugan, instantly, his Byakugan shone. Facing Kakashi, Chiba didn't dare to be overly confident. Although he knew that if he used Shisui's now, he could easily kill Kakashi instantly, that would also expose him, so he wouldn't use this power unless absolutely necessary. With a Byakugan visible, Chiba easily saw the direction of Kakashi's chakra flow. Soft fist, resurrection, Chiba thrust out both palms, then spun them violently. Almost at the moment when Kaiten was formed, Kakashi's Raikage had also arrived. Raikage fiercely bombarded Kaiten, and the 2 chakras collided violently. The 3rd generation saw the scene on the field, frowned slightly, and looked at the location of the Hyuga clan with dissatisfaction. At this moment, Hyuga Hayashi was very excited and even stood up. Chiba, use the Hyuga clan's Kaiten. Chiba, come on. Let them see the power of the Hyuga clan. The Byakugan is definitely not inferior to the Sharingan, Hyuga Hayashi thought secretly in his heart. At this moment, he no longer had any prejudice against Chiba. Just as everyone was observing the situation on the battlefield, Kakashi's face suddenly changed. Chapter 14 Becoming a Ninja. Kakashi saw a flash of lightning suddenly erupt from the Kaiten before him. Oh no, Kakashi hadn't imagined Chiba had mastered lightning release to such a degree, even unleashing it while using Kaiten. However, Kakashi didn't know that Chiba wasn't using lightning release, but the Thunderbolt Fruit, a power distinct from chakra. Therefore, using Kaiten had no effect on Chiba. But Kakashi was an elite Jonin after all. With the help of his Sharingan, he immediately discerned Chiba's intentions and retreated. What's this, Kakashi-sensei? He's actually retreating. Oh my god, Chiba-kun is so impressive. He was able to defeat Kakashi-sensei. It seems the rumors are true. Chiba-kun's strength has reached the level of a Jonin. In the stands, everyone exclaimed in surprise as they saw Kakashi retreat. They believed that even if Chiba defeated Asuma, he would still be no match for Kakashi. It was just a test, not a life or death battle. But now, it seemed Chiba wasn't at a disadvantage. So fast, Kakashi's pupils shrank as he saw Chiba's figure vanish. Even with his Sharingan, Kakashi could clearly see Chiba's movements, but he found it difficult for his body to keep up. Chiba had now transformed into a flash of lightning. Earth release, earth flow wall. Kakashi quickly formed hand seals, and a dog head wall appeared before him. Kakashi retreated, not wanting to be careless. By this point, he had already put aside his contempt for Chiba. Powerful lightning release, a Byakugan that knows no blind spots, and the third Hokage wants me to destroy his eyes. Kakashi shook his head helplessly. This task was too difficult. Just as Kakashi was pondering his strategy, a flash of lightning burst through the wall and rushed towards him. Kakashi pulled out a kunai, concentrated his lightning release on it, and charged towards Chiba. Although he had invented the Raikage technique, Kakashi's mastery of its form was clearly not as good as that of the later Nahashi. Just as Kakashi was contemplating what to do, Chiba suddenly spoke up. "Do you know what happens next with Shiro-sama? Do you know what's going to happen between Go-sensei and her, you?" Kakashi's eyes widened. This damned guy actually spoiled the story. And at such a crucial moment. "Shut up," Kakashi shouted anxiously. "No spoilers," Kakashi angrily said. He immediately pulled earplugs from his backpack and plugged his own ears. Chiba's lips curled up at the sight. He pulled a book from his backpack. Although it was just a slight flick, Kakashi, with the help of his Sharingan, could clearly see the words Young XXX Part 2 on the book. Kakashi's attention was instantly drawn to it. Chiba threw the book. Kakashi immediately ran towards the book and leaped to catch it firmly in his hands. But almost at the same moment, Chiba was behind Kakashi. "You lost." "Congratulations, Chiba," Kakashi said with a smile. He then flipped through the book in his hands and slowly walked off the stage. Chiba stared at Kakashi's back, lost in thought. Was Kakashi, considered a genius ninja in Konoha, really that weak? Or was he simply holding back? In the stands, the Sundame also watched Kakashi's departure. His heart was filled with rage, yet he managed to maintain a nonchalant expression. Then, suppressing his anger, the Sundame stepped onto the stage. "Chiba, congratulations, you are now a ninja of Konoha. From today on, you must protect the village. Even if the price of doing so is your life. Do you understand?" The Sundame looked at Chiba, then took out a forward protector and handed it to Chiba, speaking at the same time. Chiba also looked at the Sundame. Eye to eye, the Sundame could clearly see the defiance in Chiba's eyes, which only intensified his killing intent. "All this is for the peace of the village," the Sundame thought to himself. "Sir Sundame, Konoha will not sacrifice anyone. Konoha ninjas, unite as one. Sacrifices only on the battlefield and in the execution of missions," Chiba declared. Then, ignoring the sullen Sundame, Chiba turned and walked to the front of the stands. From there, he gazed at the crowd. "Today, I, Hyuga Chiba, am a ninja of Konoha. Konoha will protect me, and I will fight for you, even if it means death." He didn't utter the next words. But in the crowd, the Sundame and Itachi understood his meaning. And at that moment, the crowd erupted in cheers. They had witnessed Chiba's immense strength. They had witnessed the rise of a genius in Konoha. And at the same time, many girls flashed infatuated expressions. "Teacher Kurenai, you haven't answered Hinata yet." Kurenai's gaze was drawn to Chiba on the stage, and a smile crept across her face. But just then, a voice brought Kurenai back to her senses. The soft, tender voice now carried a hint of sourness. To be more precise, vinegar. Kurenai lowered her head to see Hinata standing beside her, pouting at her. But as she lowered her head, Hinata averted her gaze, not daring to meet Kurenai's gaze. Hinata was naturally introverted. Under normal circumstances, she would never dare confront a Jonin like that. After Kurenai's words, she hadn't responded, but Hinata's heartbeat raced. Nervous, afraid. But for Chiba, she still had to ask. "Does Hinata like Chiba?" Kurenai smiled, looking at Hinata, who had barely reached her knees. As a girl, how could she not understand Hinata's feelings, especially since she was so innocent? Sure enough, Hinata's face flushed red after hearing Kurenai's words. "No, no, no. Chiba ni. Hinata, no, no, no. Anyway, For a moment, Hinata could hear her own heartbeat. She had no idea how to respond to Kurenai. Seeing Hinata like this, Hong chuckled a few times. Then she turned her head and looked at Chiba on the battle stage, but her expression immediately turned gloomy. "You bastard, you didn't even let go of such a young girl." Chiba on the battle stage sneezed violently. Damn, did he have a cold? Why did he sneeze so much today? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 First Date. As evening approached, the crowd gradually dispersed. Chiba also followed the crowd and left the ninja school. But at this moment, a cold voice came from behind Chiba. Chiba suddenly felt a chill on his back, a feeling he had never experienced before, not even when facing the most powerful opponents. Chiba stopped and slowly turned around. Behind him, he saw Hong, with an angry face. What's wrong with this girl? He didn't offend her. What's wrong, Hong? Chiba looked at Hong approaching him and involuntarily took 2 steps back. With his current strength, there were not many people in Konoha who could give him such an oppressive feeling. Although Hong was considered an elite genin, this oppressive feeling was too strong. "You look handsome today." Hong put on a smile. But to Chiba, it seemed that the smile was malicious. Then, Hong reached out and pinched Chiba's chin. "Are you excited to hear so many girls cheering for you?" Their noses were practically touching, and Chiba could even smell Hong's fragrance. But at Hong's question, Chiba gasped, momentarily afraid to answer. "Really? Why didn't I hear anything?" Hong rolled her eyes helplessly. "Do you think I'd believe you, really? You know what Kakashi is like. Fighting him, how could I care to listen to anything else?" Chiba quickly defended herself. Hong paused, a reminder from Chiba. "By the way, what did you give Kakashi today? Why is he so excited?" Hong asked curiously, recalling Kakashi's performance during the battle. Chiba nearly spat out blood at Hong's question. How could he explain this? Was he going to show Hong his masterpiece? Hong would probably think he was a pervert. Nothing. Kakashi probably lost to me on purpose. He probably didn't want to give me too much trouble, Chiba said casually. Hong looked skeptical. Fortunately, Hong didn't dwell on the issue, instead pressing, "I have another question. What's going on between you and Hinata?" "Chiba, what's going on?" Still pretending. "You're such a beast. You didn't even spare a girl as young as her." Upon hearing this, Hong immediately twisted Chiba's waist. Hiss, Chiba gasped in pain. What on earth was this? An unprovoked disaster. "Remember, Hinata will be my future disciple. You must handle your relationship with her well." Seeing Chiba's pained expression, Hong secretly gloated, then leaned closer and whispered a threat to Chiba. "Understood. I understand." Chiba nodded quickly. "Where are you going next?" Hong asked. The two had already distanced themselves, and the atmosphere had become awkward. Hong took the initiative to speak. Chiba thought for a moment, realizing that the matter was over. He was now a ninja, and according to the agreement he had made with the third Hokage, he could negotiate with the Hidden Cloud Village as a ninja himself. Now, all he had to do was wait for someone from the Hidden Cloud Village to arrive. There didn't seem to be much else he could do. At this moment, Chiba glanced at Kurenai, who was beside him. Kurenai was also looking at him expectantly, her eyes watery and full of affection. If Chiba didn't understand, he would be foolish. So, Chiba reached out and took Kurenai's hand. Kurenai blushed slightly, but didn't struggle. Together, they walked towards the village's bustling commercial district. Not long after they left, a figure emerged from the ground, gazing thoughtfully at the two departing figures. Although Chiba was a few years younger than Kurenai, children in the Naruto world develop rapidly, and Chiba was now almost as tall as Kurenai. Coupled with Chiba's outstanding performance at the Ninja Academy today, there was nothing out of place about him walking down the street holding Kurenai's hand. Still, many people cast surprised glances at the two. It was because they were both influential figures in Konoha. Chiba, needless to say, after today, few in Konoha didn't know his name. And Kurenai, many in Konoha knew she was the object of Asuma's pursuit. This also reminded some people of the previous rumors that Chiba had fought with Asuma because of Hong. Now it seems that the rumors are true. However, facing the gazes of these people, Chiba did not care. He just walked aimlessly on the street holding Hong's hand. In his previous life, he was forced to make a living and locked himself in his house every day to write, successfully making himself a otaku. In this life, after traveling through time, he was born as a loser, living in the contempt of others every moment, and had no chance to enjoy such a peaceful time. In fact, this carefree feeling was what Chiba wanted most. However, with success, this feeling gradually disappeared. Hong bought a string of 4 happiness meatballs, took a bite, and felt good. Then, seeing Chiba looking at her eagerly, Hong smiled and let Chiba have a bite. A string of meatballs may not cost much, but when 2 people share a string, it can taste different. The moment he put it in his mouth, Chiba also smiled. Before they knew it, they had left the bustling city and arrived at the deserted Konoha forest. As the sun set, its last rays of light shone across the tree-lined path, like a path to happiness. "Chiba, do you have a dream?" Kurenai asked. "Yes, perhaps. I want a home," Chiba began. Hearing Chiba's words, Kurenai froze. She had once carried the will of fire. But after her father's death, her dream had changed. It had become a desire for a home. Kurenai looked at Chiba, her heart pounding like a deer. Having lived 2 lives, Chiba had come to understand that power, wealth, and everything else were fleeting. Only home was a warm haven. Seeing Kurenai's gesture, Chiba naturally understood what he should do. So, he grasped Kurenai's hand and slowly approached. She clenched her fist nervously, her nails scratching Chiba's, but he held back. Step by step, they both closed their eyes. But just then, a sudden, strong gust of wind blew. Without even looking, Kurenai casually reached out and grabbed the shuriken. The force of the shuriken flying towards him showed that the person who had launched it wasn't even a ninja. Kurenai turned around and saw someone making faces at him. Chapter 16. Follow me from now on. With golden hair, wearing a swirl-shaped outfit, and now clutching 2 shurikens, he looked like he'd pulled off a prank. Who else could it be but Naruto? Kurenai, momentarily caught up in the romantic atmosphere, hadn't noticed anyone nearby. Seeing Naruto appear, she instinctively hid behind Chiba, forgetting her status as a jonin. "You're quite the daredevil, kid," Chiba said with a half-smile. Naruto, the protagonist of the original novel, a master of witty tactics, a master of the ninja world. Even if Chiba's intrusion had affected his protagonist's fortunes in this world, like Hinata, who had always had a crush on him, now became a little girl with a crush on Chiba. But the Nine Tails within Naruto was genuine. Chiba had been looking for an opportunity to make Naruto his henchman, and now he had his chance. "Catch me if you dare," Naruto grimaced, then turned and ran for his life. "Oh, forget it." Seeing Chiba trying to chase, Kurenai quickly grabbed Chiba's arm to stop him. Because of Naruto's special status, she naturally had some information about him. Having experienced the Nine Tails rebellion and the death of Kurenai's father, she naturally hated the Nine Tails. However, she didn't, like the rest of the village, transfer her hatred to Naruto. She even felt a surge of sympathy for him. Naruto had lost both his parents in that war, and at the time, he was just a newborn baby. "He's just lonely and wants attention," Kurenai said. Her crimson eyes gazed at Naruto's retreating form, sympathy evident in them. HMPH, unexpectedly, Chiba feigned anger and said, "How can that be? That brat just interrupted my good deed. I need to teach him a lesson." Chiba deliberately emphasized the word good deed. Kurenai felt embarrassed and once again reached out to pinch Chiba's waist. But by then, Chiba had vanished. Hoo-hoo, Naruto gasped, turning to look. Seeing no one chasing him, instead of feeling relieved, his eyes betrayed disappointment. No one was playing with him again? "What's wrong, kid? You're not running away." Just as Naruto was feeling down, a voice suddenly rang out, startling him and making him jump. Turning back, he saw Chiba had appeared before him. What do you want?" "I'm telling you, I'm a ninja, don't try to bully me," Naruto said with mock ferocity. He had been at the Ninja Academy today and had witnessed Chiba's performance, and he admired him immensely. However, he had been isolated since childhood, and his only way to attract attention was through pranks. Now, facing Chiba, Naruto knew his threats were useless. After all, how could someone who could defeat even a Jonin be afraid of him? Even so, Naruto mentally forged a defense. After all, the worst that could happen was a beating, and he'd grown accustomed to it over the years. "Your name is Naruto, right?" To Naruto's surprise, the beating he'd imagined didn't come. Instead, A kind smile appeared on Chiba's face. This boy, only a few years older than him, warmed Naruto's heart. For as long as he could remember, everyone around him had called him Demon Fox. He didn't understand what he had done wrong to be so ostracized by the village. No one had ever actually addressed him by his name. Naruto nodded quietly, a sudden pang of guilt rising in his heart for his prank. Will you join me from now on? Chiba smiled and patted Naruto's head. Naruto had only just entered ninja school. But he knew that in a few years, when Naruto began to experience the power of the Nine Tails, he would become a formidable force. And with him joining, perhaps that time would be even shorter. Naruto looked at Chiba with some confusion. I mean, from now on, we'll be friends. I'll be your big brother. You can come to me if you need anything. Really? Little Naruto's eyes sparkled. He didn't care about the term big brother or anything like that. But Chiba said they were just friends from now on. Is that what it meant to be partners? Naruto burst into tears of joy at that moment, then hugged Chiba. Chiba then left one of his clones to take Naruto to Ichiraku Ramen while his real self went back to find Kurone. What a joke. Even though this body was still young, it was nice to have some fun. However, Chiba was somewhat disappointed to find that after returning, Kurone seemed like a completely different person. She only allowed Chiba to hold her hand, and anything more intimate was out of the question for Chiba. Alice, sometimes, once the atmosphere fades, one can only silently regret it. At that moment, outside Konoha village, a group of people had just arrived. They all wore four protectors from the land of lightning and had murderous expressions on their faces. They were clearly envoys from the hidden cloud village. The leader, with fair skin and a striking figure, was no less impressive than Tsunade. It was, of course, Samui. There were four masked Konoha ninjas, waiting for a long time, having received intelligence. However, Samui and the others didn't know that these people weren't Enbu, but members of the route. After arranging their accommodations, Samui left alone with one of the ninjas. Soon, Samui arrived at a basement. Where is this? Does the dignified Hokage usually work in a place like this? Glancing at her surroundings, Samui frowned. Although she had noticed something was amiss, she didn't panic. She knew she was representing the hidden cloud village. If anything happened to her again, war between the two nations would be inevitable. The third Hokage is definitely not here. Just then, a voice echoed from the darkness, and a figure slowly approached Samui. The man's face was bandaged, and he was leaning on a cane. Who else could it be but Danzo? And this was the headquarters of the route. Danzo. Samui was surprised to see Danzo. Before coming here, she had reviewed Konoha's intelligence and was familiar with some of its high-ranking officials, including Danzo. However, according to intelligence, Danzo has been hiding in the dark for many years and rarely appears in public. Why did he come to see her specially this time? Chapter 17 U9 comes. Why, are you surprised to see me? Danzo asked. Samui was instantly alert. She sensed a dangerous aura emanating from Danzo, a threat unrelated to strength. She sensed a darkness within him, a man shrouded in darkness. You should understand the purpose of my visit. I'm here on behalf of Kumogakure. The only one who can speak with me is the Hokage of Konoha, Samui began, and then turned to leave. But Danzo stopped her in her tracks. Aren't you seeking the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan? Sarutobi Hiruzen won't let you have it. However, if you're willing to cooperate with me, I can grant you not only the Byakugan but also the Sharingan, Danzo said. Samui finally stopped. Konoha's two major Dojutsu families, the Uchiha and the Hyuga, were renowned in the ninja world for their Byakugan and Sharingan. During the Warring States period, the Uchiha clan was far more powerful than the Hyuga clan. Konoha was even founded by both the Senju and Uchiha clans. So, to some extent, the Sharingan is superior to the Byakugan. Samui stopped her departure, her heart throbbed. What are your conditions? Help me become Hokage. In the Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hiruzen was chain-smoking his pipe. He had learned of the Kumogakure delegation's arrival and was worried. He had previously promised Chiba that Chiba would negotiate with the Kumogakure delegation as a ninja. But thinking of Chiba's defiant eyes, he feared Chiba might impulsively provoke a war between the two countries. He knew that Konoha could no longer withstand the ravages of war. He hadn't yet come up with a plan, so he decided to give the Kumogakure delegation a day off and meet them again tomorrow. Damn you, brat, you're really giving me a hard time. The third Hokage suddenly felt a strange worry. He was worried about his position as Hokage. Meanwhile, News of the Kumogakure delegation's arrival had spread throughout Konoha. Within the Hyuga clan, the two brothers, Hiashi and Hisashi, were sitting together. "Brother, you've already seen Chiba's talent. The revitalization of the Hyuga clan can be handed over to him," Hyuga Hisashi said. Hyuga Hiashi remained silent. How could he not know? At the age of 12, he possessed the strength of a Jonin, and defeated Konoha's elite Jonin. Although many people present at the time saw that Kakashi was letting him win, no one could deny Chiba's strength. This kind of strength can be called a genius in the entire Konoha, and even the entire ninja world. But how could I not know? But the trouble Chiba has caused this time is too big. If we protect him, the Hyuga clan will stand against the village, Hyuga Hiashi said. The two fell into silence. A moment later, Hisashi suddenly gritted his teeth and said, "Let me go, you." "Yes, just say I killed that Kumogakure ninja, I'm your biological brother. Kumogakure just wants the Byakugan. Handing me over will be enough to appease their wrath. Besides, I have the caged bird restriction on me, so there's no need to worry about the Byakugan falling into the hands of the enemy." Hisashi was determined. If sacrificing one person could bring about the revival of the Hyuga clan, he felt it was worth it. Hisashi wanted to speak out to stop him, but when he opened his mouth, he didn't know how to speak. He was Hisashi's eldest brother, but he was also the head of the Hyuga clan. He understood that from the head's perspective, this might be the best solution for the Hyuga clan. The Hyuga clan had been suppressed by the Uchiha clan for too many years. They needed a genius to lead the clan towards revitalization. Send Chiba over, but in the end, Hisashi still couldn't make up his mind and called Chiba instead. Not long after, Chiba appeared in the room, and the two shared their thoughts with Chiba. Chiba looked at Hisashi with some surprise. He hadn't expected that in this world, after his intrusion, Hisashi would still consider taking the blame. But this time, he was genuinely touched. Even if Hisashi's willingness to take the blame was due to his talent, not family ties, what are you worried about? Do you think I'll just go and die? Chiba observed the two's nervous expressions and smiled easily. Chiba, you may not realize the severity of this situation. This is more difficult than anything you've encountered before. Not even the Hyuga clan can protect you. Do you understand? Hisashi spoke, his tone serious, his face devoid of a smile. In their eyes, this was the moment that would determine the future of the clan. I don't need any blame, the village needs protection, not sacrifice, the same goes for the clan. If I accept your kindness, Lord Hisashi, what's the difference between that and Konoha abandoning me? Chiba said with a smile. These words deeply touched the hearts of the two men. They both knew that Chiba had been called a loser for years, and his plight within the Hyuga clan was well known. But even so, wouldn't he be willing to let the Hyuga clan sacrifice themselves for him? This boy, reliable. Hinata Hiashi thought to himself. Don't worry, I'll be fine. After a moment's silence, Chiba continued, Hokage-sama has given me the authority to negotiate with Kumogakure on my own. I have ways to deal with them. If I fail in the end, the worst that can happen is I'll become a renegade ninja. When I'm strong enough, I'll return to Konoha. At the word renegade ninja, both Hinata Hiashi and Hisashi felt a chill in their hearts. Just as they were about to speak to Chiba, they realized Chiba had vanished. Brother, Chiba's idea is dangerous. If he really becomes a renegade ninja, it would be a huge loss for the Hyuga clan, and even for the village. Hinata Hayashi's face was filled with anxiety. At this moment, Hinata Hiashi only had a wry smile on his face. Hisashi, haven't you noticed? This kid's strength has surpassed ours, Hyuga Hiashi said. He had just focused all his attention on Chiba, but still didn't notice how Chiba disappeared. It can be seen that Chiba's current strength is already above his. Thinking of this, Hyuga Hiashi finally stood up. When you go back, train Niji well. From today on, the members of the Hyuga clan must practice harder. The power of the Hyuga clan must be taken to a higher level. Only by being strong can you be the chess player. Chapter 18 The Lecture. The next day. Hokage Building. Hokage Office. At this moment, the third Hokage, Mitagato En, and Yutane Kahoru were all here. The expressions on the three of their faces were very solemn. As the absolute top leaders of Konoha, they knew very well that today's negotiations would directly affect the future of Konoha. However, Danzo did not show up today. He was good at hiding in the dark, and his absence was within everyone's expectations. In the office, besides the three people, there was another person, and his reaction was in stark contrast to the three. This was a young man, who looked relaxed at the moment, not at all affected by the atmosphere of impending storm. This young man was naturally Chiba. He now had a foolproof plan. But when the third Hokage saw Chiba like this, he became even more worried. Finally, the office door was pushed open, and Samui walked in with 4 Kumogakure ninjas. Third Hokage, we are the Kumogakure delegation, representing Raikage-sama to negotiate with your nation. Our 2 countries have already signed an alliance and ceased hostilities. Our Kumogakure village has also sent envoys to Konoha to sign a peace treaty, but who could have imagined that Konoha would attack our ninja? Even when 2 armies are at war, they don't kill envoys, let alone when our 2 countries have already decided to sign a peace treaty. Hokage-sama, please give us an explanation for this matter, Samui said. From the moment he spoke, Samui assumed the air of a vindictive commander. The third Hokage and his companions felt a pang of anxiety at Samui's words, knowing that today's matter would not end amicably. However, the third Hokage remained silent, silently taking out his pipe. Since he had handed the matter over to Chiba, he would not interfere. At this moment, only smoking could ease his inner tension. Confusing right and wrong? Are all the people of Kumogakure so bold as to not take responsibility for their actions? At this moment, a discordant voice rang out. Samui's gaze narrowed as she looked in the direction of the voice, spotting Chiba nearby. Because Chiba had always been a worthless figure in Konoha, Kumogakure's intelligence didn't mention him, which surprised Samui slightly. However, it was only a slight surprise. Kumogakure currently held an overwhelming advantage in the current situation between the 2 nations, so Samui wasn't particularly wary. Hokage-sama, does his words reflect Konoha's stance? Samui ignored Chiba, instead turning her gaze to the third Hokage beside her. Remind Hokage-sama, this is a meeting between the 2 nations. If you don't take it seriously, we can simply return to Kumogakure. The implication was that a brat was present at such an important event, leaving Samui feeling slighted. The Kumogakure sent someone to infiltrate Konoha under the pretext of signing a contract, but in reality, they were kidnapping the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan. After I discovered them, the criminals were killed on the spot. Now that you've come to negotiate, it's simple. To atone for your sins, you should cede territory and pay compensation, Chiba continued. Hearing Chiba's words, Samui was stunned for a moment, then a hint of sarcasm curled up his lips. He was still a brat after all. When was the time for reason in a bilateral negotiation? Whoever had the bigger fist was right. Hokage-sama, I repeat, this is a bilateral negotiation. No unrelated people should be present. Samui then produced a scroll and handed it over. Here is a list of compensations demanded by all the leaders of the Hidden Cloud Village for your country's wanton slaughter of Hidden Cloud ninjas. In addition to this list, there's another condition. Hand over the murderer and let me bring him back to the Hidden Cloud Village, Samui declared. Then, he placed the scroll on the third Hokage's desk. But the third Hokage didn't open it. He had already guessed what it would say, ceding territory and paying compensation. He hadn't expected that the Hidden Cloud Village would demand such exorbitant amounts of compensation while also handing over the murderer. This was what the third Hokage couldn't tolerate the most. After all, surrendering Chiba wouldn't affect the village's interests, nor would it shake his position as Hokage. At most, it would cause some dissatisfaction among the Hyuga clan, but what would it matter if it were just one clan? But ceding territory would harm the interests of all of Konoha, a fact that would directly undermine his position as Hokage. Chiba was the cause of this incident, so I have decided to give Chiba full responsibility for this negotiation, the Sandaime declared. Chiba stepped forward and picked up the scroll from the table. Samui once again cast her gaze upon Chiba's face. This time, she finally began to take the boy seriously. But in her heart, Samui was already mocking the Sandaime. It seemed Konoha was truly destitute, sending a brat to negotiate. Chiba ignored him, simply holding up the scroll and standing before Samui. Then, with a flash of lightning, the entire scroll disintegrated into confetti that flew through the air. You! How dare you! Samui cried out in a shrill voice. Chiba's lips curled in a mocking smile. There are even more outrageous ones. With that, Samui suddenly sensed a threat and instinctively retreated. The 4 ninjas behind her quickly stepped forward, shielding Samui behind them. But almost instantly, Chiba's figure transformed into a flash of lightning. These 4 ninjas were considered skilled fighters within the Hidden Cloud Village, but now, facing Chiba, they couldn't even last a single round. They were filled with utter horror, No one had expected a brat to possess such formidable strength. In the blink of an eye, the four figures flew away, and Chiba arrived in front of Samui. But Samui, a true elite member of the Hidden Cloud Village, panicked for a moment before she reacted, drawing her kunai and attempting to meet the attack. But her reaction was even faster than Chiba's. Lightning flashed, shielding Samui. Samui's kunai thrust forward, but it couldn't penetrate his defense. The next moment, Chiba grabbed her wrist. "Let me go," Samui was still struggling. This mission was her own initiative, and she had just arrived in Konoha yesterday and had received an invitation from Danzo's alliance. In Samui's opinion, success this time was a piece of cake. After returning to the Hidden Cloud Village, her status would rise. But she didn't expect Konoha's attitude to be so tough. No, it should be said that Chiba's attitude was so tough. They even dared to attack her. Snap! Just as Samui was struggling, a crisp sound was heard. Samui's figure froze in place, her pretty face flushed. Chapter 19. What do you want? Samui felt a burning pain somewhere in her body. A split second later, she felt a hand pinch her. Though fleeting, the humiliation made her blush so red she felt like blood was about to drip. "Behave yourself," Chiba said, raising his hand and waving it in front of Samui's face. In a moment of panic, he had slapped Samui's butt. He himself didn't know why he had such an instinctive reaction. Could it be a habit from a past life? Ahem, let's not discuss that for now. "You, lecher, I'll kill you." Chiba's warning didn't calm Samui down, it only made her even more furious. Ever since she was little, when had Samui ever suffered such humiliation? She had even forgotten her identity, her purpose in coming to Konoha, and only wanted to tear Chiba into pieces. Chiba's gaze fixed. A bolt of lightning surged into Samui's body, knocking her unconscious. At this time, the brothers Hyuga Hayashi and Hyuga Hayashi also walked in. "Uncle Hayashi, please keep these four Kumogakure ninjas under guard for now. After the negotiations are successful, you can send them back to deliver the letter." "Okay," Hyuga Hayashi nodded. From beginning to end, Hyuga Hayashi didn't even look at the Sandai. The Sandai's eyes narrowed slightly. Although he had already handed the matter over to Chiba, from Hyuga Hayashi's reaction, the Sandai had sensed something unusual. Did the Hyuga clan want to become the next Uchiha? Then, the Sandai locked his eyes on Chiba. All this change was due to the young man before him. At this moment, the Sandai's murderous intent towards Chiba was even stronger than his murderous intent towards the enemy Kumogakure. But even so, the Sandai held back. After waiting for Chiba and the others to leave, Midamanen looked at the Sandai. "Hiruzen, are you just going to let them go on like this? Indeed, if they continue this rampage, a war between the two nations will inevitably break out. Will the village bear the consequences?" Itachi Kaharu also spoke up. The third Hokage remained silent, puffing on his pipe, lost in thought. Having already promised Chiba, he naturally couldn't intervene at this moment. But if a war between the two nations broke out, how would he handle it? After much deliberation, the third Hokage hit upon a solution. Just as he was about to speak, Danzo walked in. "Hiruzen, is this how you would handle this? War between the two nations will be provoked by your incompetence. Can you afford the damage this war will bring to Konoha?" Danzo demanded, storming in upon entering. Although he hadn't been present before, the root members were constantly monitoring the situation. Of course, all present knew this. "I've already promised Chiba that he'll make the final decision on this negotiation, HMPH. So what if you promised him that? If his negotiations lead the village into war, destroying this hard-earned peace, and exposing Konoha, already shaky, to the flames of war once again, are you going to let him do it?" Danzo continued. His tone was righteous, unfazed by his status as the third Hokage. This made the third Hokage frown slightly. "What do you want to say?" the third Hokage continued. "Your softness is unworthy of the title of Hokage. Hiruzen, you're old. You're simply incapable of shouldering such a heavy responsibility." With that, Danzo slowly left the office. Meanwhile, Mito and Itachi Kaharu also looked at the third Hokage, their gazes tinged with suspicion by Danzo's words. Was Hiruzen truly old? In the past, with Hiruzen in charge of external affairs and Danzo in charge of internal affairs, Konoha entered its most prosperous period, with many talented people emerging. However, in the past few years, with White Fang's suicide, the Sanin's departure, and the Fourth's death in battle, Konoha gradually weakened. After the Fourth's death, The third returned to take over the position of Hokage, but Konoha didn't become stronger. Instead, it was constantly invaded by foreign nations and plagued by war. Does this mean that the third is no longer the same third? Looking at the third's face, which had aged just like their own, a thought occurred to both of them. Could Danzo be right? The third truly has aged? Meanwhile, Danzo left his office with a smile on his face. As advisors to Konoha, their status in the village was undeniable. Of course, neither of them would resign from the third's position as Hokage based on his words today, but they were sure to plant a seed in their hearts. When the time was right, it would surely take root and sprout. Then, with Shisamu's in his possession, the position of Hokage would be within their grasp. Hyuga Chiba, I really have to thank you, Danzo thought to himself, the Hyuga clan. Here, there's a basement, little known to the public. Hyuga Hayashi once trained here, but after he became the head of the clan, the place gradually fell into disuse. Just a few days ago, Hyuga Hayashi had sent people to clean up the place, having been asked by Chiba to find a secluded spot. Hyuga Hayashi had made a great decision for today's move. He knew that the clan needed Chiba for its prosperity. So, after Chiba's statement that day, he sought him out again. Upon learning of Chiba's plan, Hyuga Hayashi thought it was insane, but looking at Chiba before him, he felt an inexplicable sense of trust. He knew Chiba was a man of deep affection. But what Chiba valued wasn't blood ties or affection for the village. Chiba's affection wasn't swayed by external factors, it depended on how you treated him. If the village abandoned him, he would become a traitor. If the clan abandoned him, he would destroy it, too. So he knew that he should make a choice at this moment, a choice of whether he could tie Chiba firmly to the Hyuga clan. It was precisely because of this that Hyuga Hayashi and Hyuga Hisashi appeared in the Hokage's office today. Although the two did not speak, they still used their actions to tell the third generation the position of the Hyuga clan. At this moment, in the basement, Samui had just woken up from a coma. When Samui woke up, he saw a handsome face in front of him, looking at himself with a smile. However, when he saw this handsome face, Samui was furious. I want, because he had just been electrocuted, Samui's figure was still a little weak, and he spoke intermittently. What do you want? For some reason, when Chiba asked this question, he actually had some expectations. Kill you. Chapter 20, Torture. Samui's weak voice uttered, I want it, and Chiba was already beginning to fantasize. But the next words poured cold water on Chiba. This little girl has a rebellious streak. She needs to be disciplined. Chiba secretly made up his mind. Then, Chiba's eyes wandered over Samui, and a smile appeared on his face. Seeing this smile, Samui suddenly felt a little uneasy. No way? He's still a little brat. Samui thought to herself. Although she was already a little scared, as an elite member of Kumogakure, she would definitely not show her fear at this time. In her opinion, Chiba's current behavior was tantamount to seeking death. A little brat could disregard the overall situation, but Konoha's high-ranking officials would not allow him to act recklessly. It wouldn't be long before the third Hokage personally came to escort her out. I'm warning you, snap. Samui was about to speak, but before she could finish her words, another crisp sound was heard. Samui's slightly pale face flushed red again. She bit her lip, glaring at Chiba with fury. If it weren't for the fact that Samui hadn't just discovered she couldn't use her chakra, she would have leaped up and fought Chiba to the death. Lecher. He'd hide her there again. You may not understand your situation yet. Let me explain. Your current location is the sacred ground of my Hyuga clan. A barrier has been set up outside, so no one can find you. He started by making up stories. Samui had no way to verify them, so he just made it up to see how she would react. And a curse has been placed on you. You can't even use your chakra. You will be here for a while. How long depends on your willingness to obey, or, more accurately, your willingness to obey me. Your freedom is now in my hands. Chiba grabbed Samui's chin. Samui tried to resist, but she felt powerless. Even before arriving here, Chiba had summoned the Hyuga clan seal shinobi and had them place a curse seal on Samui. In Chiba's eyes, Samui was nothing more than a lamb to be slaughtered. Lecher, what the hell do you want? Don't forget my identity. If you dare touch me again, Raikage-sama will not let you go. Samui began to cry out. Chiba's hands pinched her face, making her feel sick. From childhood to adulthood, no man had ever played with her face like this. But more than that, she was worried that Chiba was a lunatic. Even the Konoha high-ranking officials were madmen. If he really did something reckless to her, she wouldn't be safe in Konoha, not even in her prime, let alone now. After all, while Samui possessed the strength of a Jonin, combat wasn't her forte. And this was Konoha. Chiba chuckled sarcastically at Samu's words. The Raikage, Samui, perhaps you haven't figured out your own identity yet. This incident was caused by you, the Kumogakure village. You attempted to kidnap the eldest daughter of my Hyuga clan. You, the Kumogakure village, haven't explained this to us yet. If I were the Raikage, I would come here in person to apologize, instead of being so foolish as to send you here to bring charges. Do you really think Konoha is easy to bully? Konoha has the Hokage, the two great Uchiha and Hyuga Dojutsu families, and the major clans led by the Ino Shikacho clan, each with their own strengths. We have Kakashi, Might Guy, and other elite Jonin. We have the Anbu, the Root, tens of thousands of ninja. How could you, the Kumogakure, trample upon so many people? Samui looked at Chiba. Only then did she gradually calm down from her previous anger. Chiba might be right. Konoha still had tens of thousands of ninja and a number of elites. Even if its overall strength was slightly weaker, it wouldn't allow the Kumogakure to act so recklessly. But it was the third Hokage's cowardly, peace-seeking nature that made Samui certain that the negotiations would succeed. With so many people, how many would risk their lives for a brat like you? Samui sneered. The ninja world was cold and emotionless. Since becoming a ninja, she had sacrificed countless companions on missions, a fact she had long since grown accustomed to. So, she found Chiba's words childish. Ridiculous. How could a great nation risk its life for a mere brat? Even if you're truly a gifted ninja, so what? Then how many people in the Hidden Cloud Village do you think would risk their lives for you? Chiba asked instead of answering. Samui was stunned, a hint of sadness flickering in the depths of her eyes. If I use you as a bargaining chip, will the Raikage, whom you've always respected, accept peace talks for you? Chiba pressed. Don't be delusional, I'm just an ordinary ninja from the Hidden Cloud Village. You can't threaten Raikage-sama with me, but I can tell you, if you dare to hurt me, Raikage-sama will avenge me. Then all of Konoha will have to atone for what you've done, Samui roared. Chiba remained calm in the face of Samui's rage. A regretful smile crossed his face, and he glanced at Samui's body. I was thinking if you just cooperated, I'd save myself the trouble and you wouldn't have to suffer, but judging by your attitude now, it seems you have no intention of cooperating at all. In that case, I can only torture her. Chiba deliberately emphasized the word torture. Samui snorted coldly and turned away, her face radiating a fearless demeanor. As a ninja, she had long been prepared for sacrifice. Even if it meant death, she would not compromise with Chiba, and she would never reveal a single piece of information about the Hidden Cloud Village. But the next second, Sam's composure vanished without a trace. She saw Kainai walking directly behind her. Sam collapsed to the ground, powerless. Facing Kainai's actions, she had no strength to resist. What are you doing? Don't come over here, you bastard, you lecher. Ho ha ho 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 ha ho ha. Kainai grabbed Sam's feet and, as she struggled, pulled off her shoes. No matter how Sam struggled or cursed, Kainai didn't stop, instead focusing on tickling the soles of her feet. Chapter 21 Samui's Bet. Ahoha, no asshole lecher stop I was wrong I really was wrong shots rang out from the Hyuga clan's basement. Outside, the brothers Hyuga Hayashi and Hyuga Hayashi stood guarding Chiba. They could clearly hear the noises from the basement, and they both felt a little embarrassed. Brother, Chiba is such a smart kid, but he's only this young, can he handle it? Hyuga Hayashi shook his head, his mind racing. He'd already noticed his daughter's interest in Chiba. He'd also considered that if Chiba continued to grow like this, he could easily marry Hinata and become his son-in-law, and then hand over the Hyuga clan to him without any problems. But now, what was Chiba doing? Was he so fierce at such a young age? And Hyuga Hayashi had heard that Chiba and Kuronayuhi seemed to have a. Otherwise, how had Asuma gotten into the hospital? No way. This brat is so cocky. Although this is a ninja world, ninjas are still required to adhere to monogamy. How can he be so unfaithful at such a young age? Hinata Hayashi has already made up his mind. When Chiba comes out, he will have a serious talk with him. If he still wants to gain the support of the Hyuga clan, he must cut off contact with those women outside. Hinata may be young, but she has been a beauty since she was a child. Is he afraid that she won't be so pretty when she grows up? Oh, how old is this brat? He's so impatient and doesn't even know to wait. Hyuga Chiba sneezed violently in the basement. If Chiba knew these two people outside were thinking this about him, he would probably spit out blood on the spot. He was clearly contributing to the peace of Konoha. He was trying to incite the enemies of the hidden cloud village to revolt. How could these people have such dirty thoughts? In the basement, Samui collapsed on the ground, her body drenched in sweat. What she had just experienced was truly painful torture for her, worse than killing herself. At this moment, Kainai was still beside her, looking at her with a smile on his face. Do you know you're wrong, you? Hearing Kainai's words, Samui gritted her teeth and was about to open her mouth to retort, but Kainai lifted her foot again and quickly shut her mouth. Will you listen to me now? Samui didn't answer. Kainai's fingers touched the sole of Samu's foot again. Samui nodded obediently. Seeing Samui like this, Kainai couldn't help but sigh at the effectiveness of this punishment. This was a scene from a martial arts TV series he'd seen in another world. You came here this time, and the cession of land and compensation are just bargaining chips, right? Your ultimate goal is to take me back and take my cold shoulder. Samui looked at Kainai. She wanted to sneer, but the scene just now was still vivid in her mind, and she didn't dare to be tough with Kainai anymore. In Samu's eyes, Kainai was a terrifying demon. I can agree to your request, Kainai suddenly said. Samui was stunned, confused as to why Chiba had suddenly relented. But soon, a foreboding feeling welled up in her. Although she had only met Chiba twice, she knew he was not one to compromise. Since he'd asked, there must be other conditions. Sure enough, not long after Samu's thought, Chiba continued, I want to make a bet with you and your Kumogakure Raikage-sama. Bet? Samui was surprised. She'd always heard that Tsunade in Konoha was a big gambler, and it seemed she was the granddaughter of the first Hokage. Why was this brat also willing to gamble? And with such a high stakes? Was this a Konoha tradition? Yes, I want to make a bet with your Raikage-sama. If you wins, I'll go back to Kumogakure with you, and offer you my eyes. But, then, a sly grin crossed Chiba's face. Samui tried to move back, to distance herself from Chiba. She was truly afraid of him. But as soon as Samui moved, she realized her foot was still in Chiba's grasp, making it impossible to retreat. Helpless, Samui gave up struggling. She resigned herself to her fate. If he loses, you'll be thrown into Konoha and serve as my personal maid for a month. At this request, Samui flew into a rage. Personal maid. And for a month. She was an elite jonin of the Hidden Cloud Village. The Raikage's favorite. Who in the Hidden Cloud Village wouldn't be filled with respect? Furthermore, Samu's beauty and impressive figure were unmatched in the Hidden Cloud Village. Countless men in the Hidden Cloud Village had confessed their love for her, but Samui hadn't been attracted to any of them. The reason was simple. Thanks to the Raikage, the Hidden Cloud Village had quietly experienced a surge in muscled men, and now the village was filled with muscular men, a trend Samui didn't like at all. Samui suspected Chiba's request had something to do with her. But she thought perhaps this brat, with his impertinence, would ask for her to be his girlfriend. She could just pretend to agree then. After all, in Samu's opinion, no matter how strong Chiba was, she couldn't possibly be a match for the Raikage. But Samui hadn't expected Chiba to actually ask for her to be a maid. As proud as she was, when had she ever endured such an insult? Samui glared at Chiba. Though furious, she remained silent. Everything was clear. Why, you don't dare, what do you want to bet with a Raikage? What? Chiba sneered. On his greatest skill, speed, ever since Minato's death, the fourth Raikage had considered himself the fastest ninja in the world. But how could Chiba, possessing the Thunder Fruit, be any less powerful? Okay, Samui was stunned, then immediately agreed. She simply assumed Chiba was being too arrogant, unable to grasp the power of being the fastest person in Kumogakure, and now the fastest person in the ninja world. But, thinking of the humiliation just now and Kainai's request, Samui paused and continued, I want to remind you, after you lose, come back to Kumogakure with me and hand over your eyes, but no one will kill you. I will definitely punish you twice as much for the humiliation you just gave me. Hearing Samu's words, Kainai nodded thoughtfully. No need to go through so much trouble, we can do it now. After saying that, Kainai immediately took off his shoes and stretched out both feet in front of Samui. Come on, give me a good pinch. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 I Misunderstood. Chiba hadn't had a proper foot massage since arriving in this world. In his previous life, back in the Great Celestial Empire, Chiba was a nerdy online writer. His favorite hobby was to chat with a technician after finishing his writing, discussing life and their relationships. Of course, he was a respectable man, and he always went to legitimate places. Samui saw Chiba placing her feet directly in front of him, sniffed their scent, and then sprayed him directly. His patience had reached its limit. "Today, I'm going to bite you to death," Samui shouted frantically. "Bite?" Chiba smiled again. Alice, this was the Naruto world, and the people here didn't understand the profoundness of the Chinese language and culture. Otherwise, he would have asked Samui to explain how to pronounce the two characters of bite separately. After tormenting Samui, Chiba left the basement satisfied. As he had agreed with Samui, Samui would relay his message back to Kumogakure. He believed that, with a Raikage's arrogance, he would certainly not refuse a fight. And then, possessing the Thunder Fruit, he would have no chance of losing. Calculating the time, Chiba knew his little frog would be back in a few days. Ever since it brought back the Thunder Fruit, Chiba had been curious about what his little frog would bring back next time. This gave him a vague sense of anticipation. However, Chiba hadn't expected to find two figures already waiting in the basement upon exiting. Hinata Hayashi's eyes were fixed on him, hesitant to speak. "Hayashi-sama, what can I do for you?" Chiba asked. Although Hinata Hayashi had already expressed his support, he was still a member of the Hyuga clan, so Chiba still had to address him as Sama. Hinata Hayashi coughed. He had already decided to have a serious talk with Chiba for his daughter's lifelong happiness, but now that the words were on his lips, he didn't know how to begin. Seeing this, Hinata Hayashi tactfully left the scene. "Chiba, I think you should seriously consider your personal issues." After pondering for a moment, Hyuga Hayashi finally managed to gather his words and spoke. But this sentence left Chiba baffled. What did he mean? Personal issues? But I'm only 12. Could it be that Hayashi-sama? Chiba couldn't help but imagine Hinata. Could this be an engagement for him and Hinata? Chiba's imagination drifted, a smile playing on his face. But to Hyuga Hayashi, this happy smile seemed a bit sleazy. How many women could this brat be thinking about at once? "Chiba," Hyuga Hayashi's tone suddenly grew serious. Chiba, still secretly delighted, was startled by Hyuga Hayashi's exclamation, and only then did he recover. "Although you are very talented, I do have high hopes for you. In the future, the Hyuga clan, there's a good chance it will fall into your hands." After a moment's deliberation, Hyuga Hayashi decided to come clean. "But you should understand the prerequisites for you to inherit the Hyuga clan. So, you should have some plans for certain things, understand?" With that, Hyuga Hayashi immediately fled. He was clearly warning Chiba, but why did he feel a little less confident as he spoke? Alice, after all, his wife had been gone for so many years. As a man of such integrity, getting Hyuga Hayashi to broach this topic was a bit of a stretch for him. Gazing at the direction Hyuga Hayashi had left, Chiba fell into deep thought. What did Hyuga Hayashi mean? Some things needed to be planned ahead of time? Was he referring to himself and Hinata? The more Chiba thought about it, the happier he felt. He hadn't expected this man of integrity to be shy. As for Hyuga Hayashi's true meaning, Chiba hadn't grasped it at all. He wasn't from this world. In his previous life, as a struggling, unsuccessful writer, Chiba had experienced every kind of suffering in the world. In this life, as a time traveler, blessed with a system, he was destined to reach the pinnacle of the ninja world. So, he would not let go of things he had never enjoyed before and could only dream about in this life. Since you've said it so clearly, shouldn't I prepare some betrothal gifts for you? Kainai suddenly thought. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this was the right thing to do. Although he was very powerful, etiquette could not be abandoned. Then, Kainai left here alone. In a room of the Hyuga clan. The compromised Samui had been restored to freedom by Kainai, but she could only move around within the Hyuga clan. She could also enjoy the VIP treatment of the Hyuga clan, but the restrictions on her body were still in place, and she could not leave the Hyuga clan territory at will. Even so, for Samui, who had just suffered torture at Kainai's hands, this was already a blessing she had longed for. At this moment, Samui was taking a shower in the room. Her clothes were soaked with sweat during the torture just now. Recalling the scenes just now, Samui gritted her teeth, her face full of anger. However, when Samui recalled the moment Chiba had tortured her, a blush crept across her face. Damn lecher, he actually touched me, Samui cursed Chiba under her breath as she thought. But that scene, even the smallest detail, was etched in her mind, unforgettable. After showering, Samui threw on a bathrobe, walked to the bed, and began blow-drying her hair. Because her clothes were soaking wet, the Hyuga clan had already prepared a new set of clothes for her, but they hadn't arrived yet. Samui didn't know why, but as she was blow-drying her hair, she couldn't stop thinking about that figure. Chiba Hyuga. Samui waved the blow-dryer vigorously, as if to smash Chiba's head in. Just then, a voice came from outside. Come in, Samui said casually, knowing it was the Hyuga clan members coming to bring her clothes. Sure enough, a girl soon walked in, holding a clean kimono. Samui walked towards the girl. But at that moment, a murderous intent suddenly flashed in her eyes. She pulled a kunai from under her clothes and rushed towards Samui. Samui was shocked, but her chakra was only sealed. She could still perform physical techniques, so she quickly dodged to the side. A stream of blood splattered out. Chapter 23 appearing at the critical moment. Although Samui reacted quickly, the girl's attack was too swift, and the kunai still lacerated Samui's lower abdomen. A wound appeared on his fair skin, and blood splattered. Samui clutched the wound with his hand in pain, blood oozing from between his fingers. Samui was deeply depressed. Before coming to Konoha, he had been arrogant and had already assessed the current situation between the two countries. He had thought that this trip to Konoha would be smooth, but now, it seemed that things were completely different. During the negotiations, Chiba had given him a beating. Afterward, he had locked him in the basement and said, torture, those times were not life-threatening. But this time, it felt like a life-or-death situation. Who are you? Do you know who I am? Do you know the consequences of killing me? Samui shouted angrily. But the killer ignored Samui's words and rushed at Samui again, kunai in hand. Samui retreated, and the two engaged in combat. To avoid causing too much noise, they hadn't used any ninjutsu. Samui was, after all, an elite member of Kumogakure. Though her chakra was restricted, her physical skills were no less impressive. At this point, the killer finally grew anxious. She knew that if she delayed any longer, the Hyuga clan would discover the presence. After all, their Byakugan could easily see what was happening. Fire style, fire dragon bullet, the killer quickly formed hand seals, and a dragon of fire swept directly towards Samui. Samui hurriedly tried to dodge, but just as she was about to do so, she twisted her ankle and cried out in pain. The basement had expended so much energy, and this sudden change had only just occurred. In that brief moment, Samui realized the dragon was right before her. She was powerless to dodge, and could only shield herself with her hands. Samui's heart tightened, knowing she was doomed. Since the opponent had already used ninjutsu, they would surely end the fight swiftly. However, the expected burning sensation did not come. The original flames vanished in an instant. When Samui retracted her arms, she saw a figure that had appeared in front of her without her knowing when. Looking at the figure before her, Samui's heart finally settled, and she suddenly felt the urge to move closer. The constant drain of energy and the rapid loss of blood left Samui feeling weak. Now, she was finally able to sit down. The person Samui was standing before was, of course, Chiba. Chiba was radiating a terrifying murderous intent. He had never imagined that someone in Konoha, in the Hyuga clan, would actually attack Samui. And he knew full well that if he hadn't had Samui's chakra sealed, with her abilities, she would have been impossible to assassinate so easily. Who told you to come? Chiba shouted angrily. Seeing this, the assassin immediately turned and tried to leave. But no matter how fast she was, how could she possibly outrun Chiba, who possessed the thunder fruit? The moment she turned, Chiba was already in front of her. With one hand, he grasped her throat. Tell me, I can give you a quick death, otherwise, I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death. Chiba's grip gradually increased in strength. The killer's body was easily lifted by her. The killer who had just displayed a superb strength before Samui was now powerless in Chiba's hands. The killer was speechless. Chiba pinched her mouth open. As expected, it was just as he had imagined. On the killer's tongue, there was a mark. The mark of the root. The killer's identity was clear, and the person behind it was also obvious. In all of Konoha, he was the only one who had dared to do such a thing. Chiba pondered for a moment. If he hadn't arrived in time, Samui would have been assassinated, and war between Konoha and Kumogakure would have been inevitable. Samui was assassinated within the Hyuga clan. If anything were to happen, the Hyuga clan would be blamed, and the third Hokage, who had allowed Chiba to handle the matter on his own, would naturally be implicated. That would be his golden opportunity to seize the position of Hokage. Danzo. How ruthless. Would he sacrifice the interests of the village just to become Hokage? Chiba easily killed the assassin and then approached Samui. "Why are you here?" Samui asked, causing Chiba to pause and freeze in place, his expression utterly embarrassed. Samui had just been showering. And he was training his Byakugan. That's right. Since he had brought Samui with him, it wouldn't be unreasonable for him to take a moment to check on her safety while she was training. Nothing wrong with that. But could he just say that? "I sensed a fight here, so I rushed over immediately. After all, you've seen my speed," Chiba said. Samui's eyes fixed on Chiba. The sharpness in his eyes made Kainai gasp. Feeling guilty, Kainai almost wanted to turn and leave. But then, Samui frowned slightly, averting her gaze and looking at her own wound. There, blood had already soaked her palm. Samui's face was extremely pale, and the pain made her forget to think about what Kainai had just done. "The wound seems very deep. Let me see. It's all your fault, you damn bastard. If it weren't for you sealing my chakra, I wouldn't be in any trouble," Samui cursed. Kainai ignored him and went directly to Samui's side, taking her hand. A shocking wound was visible on her fair skin. "Wait, I can't see clearly like that," Kainai said. Samui was wearing a white bathrobe, which was stained red by the blood, making it almost indistinguishable from her skin at the wound. Samui blushed. What did this guy mean? "Asshole. How dare you? I'm trying to save you. Don't worry, I won't look at it anymore," Kainai said. Then, regardless of Samui's objection, he lifted up her bathrobe. At this moment, the wound was clear. In order to show that he was a gentleman, Kainai's eyes were fixed on Samui's wound. "You must stop the water immediately. If you lose too much blood, there will be sequelae, then you treat it," Samui gritted her teeth. She didn't care about so much at this time. She just wanted to deal with Kainai after her wound healed. "Kainai? I didn't say I was a medical ninja." Chapter 24. This is my first kiss. "Samui, not a medical ninja? If you're not a medical ninja, why are you taking off my clothes?" Of course, Chiba simply wanted to take a quick look at the wound, nothing more. That's right, that's it. Samui, now extremely weak, somehow found the strength to knock Chiba away with one blow. Medical ninjas from the Hyuga clan soon arrived and treated Samui's injuries. Chiba didn't linger for long, feeling a bit irritated by today's events. He knew who had attacked him. A root member. Who else could command him besides Danzo? Given Chiba's temper, he really wanted to capture Danzo and give him a good beating right then and there. However, he knew it wasn't the right time to attack Danzo yet. His prestige in Konoha wasn't high enough. But, "You old bastard, just wait. Sooner or later, I'll kill you. This time, I won't even let you seal a bridge." Chiba was about to head to Root headquarters, leaving the Hyuga clan behind. But just then, he felt a chill behind him. Murderous intent. Such a strong murderous aura filled Kainai with alarm. Just then, Kainai looked up and saw a beautiful figure staring intently at him. "Hong, when did you get here?" Kainai couldn't help but feel a little guilty upon seeing Hong, but he still smiled as he walked towards her. He finally understood where his murderous intent had come from. He knew without even asking that Hong must have heard about his imprisonment of Samui and had come looking for him. "Alice, this woman can be such a nuisance sometimes." I wonder if Asuma would explode with rage if he heard Kainai's feelings at that moment. "Damn it. This is the woman I've been pursuing for so long. And you're still bothering me. Why, you don't seem to want me to come." Hong glanced at Kainai with a half-smile. Kainai felt his back wet. He hadn't even been this tired in the basement just now. "Well, it seems Samui is better." "No, how could that be?" Kainai said with a smile as he walked up to Hong. Hong's face still wore a smile, but her hands were far from peaceful. She pinched Chiba's waist, pinching a small piece of flesh, causing Chiba to grimace in pain. "Isn't it? Kumogakure ninjas are quite good, aren't they?" Hong smiled at Chiba. She had been worried about Kumogakure's visit to negotiate, wondering if Chiba would be in danger. But who could have imagined that Chiba would actually kidnap a Kumogakure ninja and bring him back? Hong had also heard that Samui, the one who came to Kumogakure, was a stunning beauty. Considering Chiba's personality, Hong immediately guessed what Chiba was thinking, and that was why she had come all the way to the Hyuga clan. On the way there, she had been a little worried about Chiba being affected by this incident. But upon arrival, seeing Chiba's infatuated expression and his disheveled clothes, Hong was furious. What the hell had that bastard just done? Of course, if Hong knew Chiba was in such a mess after fighting someone, she probably wouldn't have been so angry. Unfortunately, a woman's instinct, coupled with her natural jealousy, made Kurenai give up on her thoughts. The label of LSP was simply placed on Chiba's head. But, it seemed right. No. What are you talking about? Kumogakure is our Konoha's enemy. All Kumogakure ninjas deserve to be killed. Kill. As Chiba spoke, she thrust her finger forward, gesturing and chanting kill. Only he knew what the slogan meant. Kurenai rolled her eyes at Chiba. Though still dissatisfied, she let go. How are you going to handle this? As they got to the point, the jealousy on Kurenai's face gradually faded. After all, she was a Jonin of Konoha, so she naturally knew what was important. It was just that, as a girl, she just wanted to vent. Afterward, Chiba told Kurenai her plan. After she finished, Kurenai's face was solemn. She had also heard of the Raikage. Ever since Minato's death, the fourth Raikage had been recognized as the fastest ninja in the ninja world. Although Hong had absolute faith in Chiba's strength, the thought of facing such an enemy, one whose speed surpassed his forte, made him nervous. Don't worry, Chiba said, touched, seeing the worry on Hong's face. The sudden intimacy made Hong blush. Lecture, Hong spat, but she didn't reject Chiba's advances. Well, actually, I don't really want to beat him, Chiba said suddenly, changing the subject. Huh? Why? Hong asked, somewhat surprised. Chiba couldn't help but chuckle at Hong's adorable, open-mouthed expression. Think about it, who's the Raikage? He's the fastest man in the ninja world right now. If I beat him, wouldn't that make me the fastest man in the ninja world? Do you know what that title means to a man? It's not very hurtful, but extremely insulting, Chiba explained with a smile. Hong didn't react for a moment, but when she did, she rolled her eyes at Chiba. Bah! You're such a brat, Hong cursed softly, but she still naturally took Chiba's arm. Chiba's playboyish nature was hard for Hong to accept, but being with Chiba made her feel very comfortable. Chiba stood there quietly, feeling Hong's warmth and seeing Hong's dependent expression. He didn't interrupt too much. After all, at this moment, he also felt a long-lost sense of relief. But at this moment, Hong suddenly grabbed Chiba's arm and pulled her away. What's wrong, Hong? Where are you going? Chiba was a little confused by Hong's behavior. However, Hong didn't respond, so Chiba could only run after Hong. Before long, the two of them entered the forest of Konoha. Looking at the familiar scene before him, Chiba suddenly realized that this was the place where Naruto had interrupted his last date with Hong. After finding the same tree, Hong finally stopped. The running just now made both of them gasp for breath. Why, so anxious? Kainai looked at Hong with a smirk on his face. Just as he was about to say something teasing, he felt his lips blocked. At this moment, even the experienced Kainai was stunned. He never dreamed that Hong would do such a thing to him. This was his first kiss. Chapter 25 Invitation. Under the pitch-black night, a bright moonlight shone on the road. A lone figure walked, licking his lips as he walked, seemingly savoring something. This figure was, of course, Chiba. He was naturally reminiscing about his recent actions with Yuhi Kurenai. Alice, what a shame. This woman is so cruel. This was my first kiss, and she took it away from me. No. I must make her responsible. I must make her compensate me double. Chiba pondered silently as he walked, licking his lips. Don't say it. This feels. It's quite sweet. Chiba's face broke into an nymphomaniac smile. But at the same time, he began to regret why he hadn't reacted immediately. After all, he was the man, so how could he be so passive in such a situation? Well, he liked being passive. A breeze blew by, picking up Chiba's sleeves. Chiba paused, his face, once full of smiles, darkening. Then, it was filled with murderous intent. Suddenly, a man appeared before him. On his shoulders, he carried Kurenai, who had recently separated from him. Shrouded in a black robe, the moonlight obscured Chiba's face. "Who are you?" Kurenai had fallen into the hands of the enemy only moments after they separated, indicating they had been watching them. The fact that he possessed such power and remained undetected by Chiba was a testament to his immense strength. Even so, Chiba was already intent on killing him. A dragon has a reverse scale, anyone who touches it dies. This man would surely meet his end at his hands sooner or later. At that moment, a dark figure slowly advanced and lifted his hat. A masked face appeared before Chiba's eyes. Upon seeing the mask, Chiba immediately understood the man's identity, and a smile curled his lips. "Are you the brat who defeated Kakashi?" The masked man glanced at Chiba, a hint of confusion in his eyes. Beneath the mask, his Sharingan remained active, but he didn't sense the powerful chakra from Chiba. With that level of chakra, he should barely be at the level of a Jonin. How could he defeat Kakashi? "You're courting death?" Chiba ignored the masked man's words. Perhaps to others, the masked man before him seemed mysterious, but to Chiba, his identity was crystal clear. In the next second, Chiba's form exploded, transforming into a bolt of lightning. A sneak attack, the masked man's lips curled in disdain. With his divine power, he wasn't afraid of a surprise attack. In a flash, Chiba was already in front of him. Huh? So fast? Only then did the masked man react with a touch of surprise. He had only seen such speed in his own teacher. He hadn't expected Konoha to have another figure whose speed put them at the pinnacle of the ninja world. At that moment, the masked man began to slowly subside his contempt. But he didn't hesitate at all. Instead, he felt even happier. If Chiba were just an ordinary person, wouldn't his entire journey have been in vain? Arriving in front of the masked man, Chiba unleashed a punch. But the result was obvious. The fist easily passed through the masked man's body, causing no damage. "It's useless. Your attack has no effect on me. Perhaps you think you're already strong enough to defeat Kakashi, but you have to understand, there are always people better than you. In the entire ninja world, Kakashi is nothing. We're not even on the same level," the masked man declared. Then, he raised his shoulder, motioning Chiba to look at the Kurenai on his shoulder. "I've been secretly observing you for a long time. I never thought a Konoha Jonin would be interested in a brat like you. You have the blood of the Hyuga clan, but that's just a lowly Byakugan. I've been able to observe you for so long without you noticing. You should understand that our strength is completely different," the masked man continued. If Chiba hadn't known Chiba's strength intimately, he would have believed it. But, he was only able to achieve this by utilizing the power of the main Gekyo Sharingan, the unrivaled Kamui of space-time and jutsu. What's there to be proud of? Kamui wasn't without its flaws. This jutsu won't last long. I advise you to return Kurenai to me immediately, or I guarantee you won't leave Konoha today. You should understand that if I send out a signal now, it won't be long before the ambush surrounds you, and I can keep haunting you. Even you won't be able to escape today. After all, aside from your special abilities, you're useless, Chiba declared without a shred of awe. The masked man paused at Chiba's words. Chiba couldn't see the expression beneath his mask, but even through it, she could sense the masked man's fury. The two stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, the masked man tossed Kurenai into Chiba's hands. Chiba took Kurenai and briefly examined her, confirming she was merely unconscious from an illusion. Only then did he feel relieved. "Kid, you're quite courageous. This is my sincerity. Now, let's talk about our business," the masked man said, not admitting he was threatened by Chiba. But he was secretly shocked, for he realized Chiba seemed to understand his abilities well. Was this just a guess from their brief encounter? If so, Chiba's strength was truly formidable. "Speak," Chiba began. He was also somewhat curious as to why this man had suddenly come to him. "I know your current situation. Just today, that female ninja from Kumogakure was assassinated. I believe you understand that someone in Konoha wishes to provoke a war, and no matter what means they use, you are destined to become a victim. So, I would like to invite you to join my organization and become my companion. Our organization's code name is Akatsuki," the masked man said. Chiba was stunned. He hadn't expected to reach this level so soon. But then again, the Uchiha clan's massacre took place not long after. Perhaps Itachi had already joined Akatsuki by then. Only here can you fulfill your dream, and here in Konoha, there's absolutely no way we can track you down. Among our organization is Orochimaru, the traitorous ninja from Konoha. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.